Pirate's Most Powerful Villain, Chapter 261-280. Chapter 0261-Interested in Jumping Ship. Broken, Kyoka Shueyu. As if there was a sound of a broken mirror, the blade of Zanpakuto emitted blue light, and there was a sound of ringing around the captain's room. Nico Robin had no idea what was going on, and could only see that the golden lion suddenly fell into a sluggishness. "Here is." Golden Lion murmured, and in his vision, everything was broken. As if the space collapsed, the dreamy deputy captain disappeared, and everything fell into complete darkness. Hearing, touch, smell, sight, taste, the five senses are completely erased. I couldn't move, I couldn't hear, I even forgot to breathe. In absolute darkness, the golden lion was motionless, like a statue. He can't get any information from the outside world. No, to be precise, he can't even perceive whether he exists or not. The whole person is like a ghost, floating in the infinite darkness, always the weakest towards the abyss. At this time, it seemed that the flow of time had become extremely slow, and even Golden Lion could not feel the passage of time. Darkness is eternity. Moment eternity. Ah! Golden Lion let out a roar, and fear appeared in his heart. He is not afraid of death, but the current situation is more terrifying than death. If there is a world after death, then this is definitely an endless hell. Time passed. Golden Lion went from initial panic to hallucination. He kept mumbling something, but he couldn't hear any figure. Soon, his willpower was slack, his thinking was slow, and he was surrounded by tension, anxiety, fear, and endless negative emotions. 1 day, 2 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months. When 6 months passed, Golden Lion was completely unconscious. At this moment, the dark world collapsed, the light came again, and the long-lost face appeared in his eyes. "You are dreamy." Golden Lion's eyes recovered a little, but his tone was extremely weak. And the moment he finished speaking, he was shocked. "Can I hear the sound?" "How do you feel?" Chinyang stared at each other and slowly put away the blade. "Do you still want to die now?" Hearing this, Golden Lion fell into silence. He had no haki and no hostility, as if he was a dejected old man. "How long has it been?" 3 minutes. "It's only 3 minutes. Golden Lion chuckled twice, looking lonely. "I thought half a year had passed." "No, maybe a year. Your ability is to control my 5 senses." He remembered that terrible state again, and he couldn't even think of dying. "I know, I will do as you ordered." At the end, he said decadently. Seeing this, Chinyang chuckled, "And Shin, after 5 years, you will be free. However, you don't have to think about committing suicide. Even if you succeed, we will have the means to restrain your soul. 3 minutes, but permanent captivity." Quote. After finishing speaking, Chinyang looked at Robin in a daze and said, "I'll leave it to you for the time being. I still have a few things to do. As for how to deal with it, you can decide for yourself." "Do you leave such important matters to me?" Robin opened his mouth and wanted to ask how to deal with it, but saw Chinyang's figure move and disappeared from the room in an instant. "I'm just a newbie." Not to mention Nico Robin Alexander, Chinyang left the island in the sky directly. Disappearing together, the Lich King, the Archangel, the Shadow Demon, the Nine-Tailed Demon Fox and so on. Chinyang only left the Sea Dragon to frighten everyone. There is a 5-star Sea Dragon, and he gave those pirates 10 courage, and he did not dare to make trouble. "Go and deal with Big Mom first. This guy has been hiding for so long, it's time to deal with it." Thinking like this, Chinyang took back all his transformations and went to the new world as the deputy captain. From the airspace where the 7 waters are located, it only takes 3 days to fly to the new world Cake Island at the speed of an archangel. Even if it is a sea dragon, it only takes 5 days to fly at full strength. Take 2 weeks. Of course, this was because Chinyang was not in a hurry at all and walked away slowly. During this period, he was constantly familiar with the various abilities of the new transformation. In particular, ghost realms are too complicated and huge. For example, the 77th heavenly Ting Kongluo that was used previously. In fact, at the level of Samsung Eisen, it is completely possible to give up singing, but because Qin Yang was not proficient in using it for the first time, he couldn't do it. After 2 weeks of familiarity, he has roughly mastered all abilities. Ghost Dao is divided into Broken Dao and Bound Dao. The former is mainly for attack and destruction, while the latter is for the purpose of imprisoning and binding. In addition to Onigiri, it is Shunpo, which is a faster way to move than shaved in Marine Rokushiki. Finally, it is Zanpakudo Kyoka Suigetsu. There are 3 types of knives. The first is naturally a sealed state, followed by Shikai, and then Bankai. Qin Yang can only master Shikai. He has no clue about Bankai at all. He probably needs 4 or even 5 stars to master it. However, to him, there is not much difference between Shikai and Bankai. In this world, there is basically no power that can break through the complete hypnosis of Jinghua Shuiyu. New World, Cape Island. A figure floated down. It's still icy and snowy here, and the wind is biting. Qin Yang looked around, and then said unhurriedly, "The great demon king of fear." As soon as the thought moved, a black light flickered, and then a tall figure condensed. The figure is the friend of the firstborn demon, with an evil face. "I can feel it," the Dreadlord grinned. "Isho, the entrance to the dream world is closed, but I can force it open." Saying that, he suddenly stretched out a claw forward. Dreamland invasion. Puff. The space seemed to be torn apart, like a piece of transparent wallpaper that was torn open under this grasp. "It's really simple." The great demon king of fear curled his lips in disdain. The dreamer who has the ability to develop his own abilities is still too naive. When he encounters similar powers, he has no resistance at all. After he finished speaking, he shook his head, turned into a ray of light, and fell into Qin Yang's mouth. "Is it easy?" Qin Yang chuckled and stepped into the gap in the dream world. And as he passed, the crack closed quickly, as if it had never existed. At the same time, in a valley in the dream world, there are beautiful mountains and clear waters. There is a small stream, and above the stream is a waterfall. On the bank of the stream, a group of remnants of the Big Mom pirates gathered together and were practicing. Some people exercise hockey, some people practice fighting technique, and some people work hard to develop their own fruit ability. Among them was a girl with a beautiful appearance, who was sitting by a stream and stone, closing her eyes and resting. She is legit, the one with the power of Mingmeng fruit. At this moment, Li Jiet's eyes suddenly widened, revealing an incredible look. How is this possible? She stood up abruptly, looking at the entrance to the dream world with horror on her face. Her gaze seemed to penetrate an infinite distance and saw an intruder. Impossible. Someone invaded. She took a deep breath and shouted quickly, "Everyone is ready to fight. There is an intruder." He forcibly tore open the dream world. It is estimated that in 10 minutes. Hearing this, everyone who was cultivating stopped moving and looked at Ligiet. However, at this moment, everyone felt a flash in front of their eyes, and a man wearing a white feather woven suddenly appeared. "What?" Ligiet was startled and stared at Qin Yang with an expression of disbelief. "Why so fast? The Dreamland corridor can't stop it for half a minute." She was surprised, and the others were even more shocked. This is the first time in history that the dream world has been invaded, and the intruders have cracked the dream corridor so easily. "Who are you?" someone said in a tense, alert tone. "Everyone, you are very motivated. What do you want to do when you hide in a place like this?" With a smile on his face, Qin Yang looked at everyone playfully, and then looked at Ligiet. "You are very good. Are you interested in jumping to our dream?" He coached people in front of him. "I forgot to introduce, I'm the deputy captain of the dream, Death, Eisen." "Vice captain." Everyone was shocked, and their expressions changed. Chapter 0261-Dust Off. Second update. By the way, regarding the answer to Aizen's hypnosis need to liberate Zanpakudo, when the protagonist hypnotizes Golden Lion, he pronounces the liberating language. Of course, he can actually not read it, or it can be omitted as Kyoka Shueyu. Fantastic Vice Captain. When Chin Young revealed his identity, all the remnants of the Big Mom pirate group present changed their expressions. They will never forget what happened that night. Dream only dispatched a dominant cadre to contain all the combat power of their entire pirate group. At the same time, the four emperors Big Mom lost to Emperor Qin, and even his heart was pierced. The deputy captain who appeared at the moment must have the combat power above the dominant cadre, that is to say, the person in front of him is at least the fourth emperor level. At this moment, Li Jiat gritted her teeth and said, "How did you come in? Your dream world is really troublesome, and none of our shadow demons can come in directly." Qin Yang calmly said, "However, it's still too tender to prevent me from invading. I didn't pay attention to you before because I didn't have time. Now that I'm back, I'll take it by the way. You must kill them all." Li Jiet's face was very bad, and she whispered, "Your dream is now so powerful, is it necessary to do this to our remnant party of the four emperors? What are you talking about? Compared to Charlotte Linlin's brutality, I'm immoderate in the way of dreaming." Qin Yang, Vivi Isho, looked at the other party jokingly, and said, "It's you, obviously not a member of the Charlotte family, but loyal to Charlotte Linlin. Are you interested in jumping ship to dream?" Of course, he just said that. He still doesn't look down on the mere ability of Mingmeng fruit. "I will not betray." Lijiet took a deep breath. "Deputy Captain Eisen, this is the dream world, our main battlefield. You are too confident to come here alone." She calmed down a little while giving the rest of the crowd a wink. Qin Yang didn't stop it, but the old god said in the ground, "Are you moving soldiers? This is just a part of the remnants of the party. The four generals know, the three generals are here now, they are not there. Charlotte Linlin, where is she? I know she's alive and well." Although the shadow demon couldn't jump behind Big Mom, he could sense the opponent's state to some extent, and it could be known that the opponent was probably out of danger. Even if the heart is pierced, it can be rescued. It has to be said that the four emperor pirates indeed have a brilliant ship doctor. No, it's not a matter of medical skill level, it's some kind of fruit ability, or the soul fruit itself has healing power. Thinking like this, Qin Yang suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked up at the sky ahead. "I saw a door suddenly open in the air, and then several figures came out. Rescue soldiers are coming." Qin Yang chuckled and said, "All right, I'll look everywhere for saving." Several figures walking out of the gate in the sky jumped down one after another. At a glance, Qin Yang easily recognized several acquaintances. Peckham's, Balan Baron, Amand, Randolph, Diesel. There are several combatants alone, including cadres, and 3 desert generals. Charlotte Smoothie, Charlotte Katakori, Charlotte Snag. The bounties range from 100 million to over 1 billion, which can be described as a luxurious lineup. And just as a group of people descended, a fat body slowly walked out of the gate above the sky. That is the four emperors Charlotte Linlin. He, are you the dream co-captain? As soon as she appeared, Charlotte Linlin stared at Qin Yang with bloodshot eyes. "Back then, your captain pierced my heart, but unfortunately I didn't die. Now your vice captain has invaded the dream world again, it's so deceiving." As she spoke, she jumped down suddenly, and with a bang, she landed beside the creek. "I'm not surprised that you're still alive, but I'm surprised that you're so alive." Qin Yang's tone was calm, as if reminiscing with an old friend. "Can you explain to me how you recovered?" Since Qin Yang destroyed the Big Mom pirates, if he can recover, he feels that it is normal, and it is surprising that he can recover to this level. He. Charlotte Linlin laughed strangely, and in the laughter, the killing intent was undisguised. "Death, Eisen. Your captain only dares to call himself an emperor, but you dare to call a god. Just right, the old lady will kill you Dream One today." "God." Hearing this, Li Jiet nodded immediately and whispered softly, "The dream unfolds." As soon as the voice fell, with her as the center, a special energy wave radiated, and this energy swept across everyone present. When it swept across Chin Young, this force was suddenly blocked by something, and then disappeared directly. Huh. Seeing this, Charlotte Linlin narrowed her eyes. Are you a swordsman? Give you a chance to draw a sword. Next, the old lady won't be kind to fight you one-on-one. If it is the dominant cadre, she would have to personally experience it. But the deputy captain, she can't be sure. Even if she is in the dream world and has absolute home field advantage, she will not be stupid enough to go one-on-one with Chin Young. Hey. Chin Young couldn't help laughing. Just a mere human, don't speak madly. The reason why I call it the god of death is because I am indeed the god of death. For you, there is nothing wrong with calling it a god. Death. Everyone frowned, with a bad premonition. Just heard Chin Young continue. It doesn't matter whether you are alone or a group of people. For me, it is impossible to tell with the naked eye whether there is one or two dusts that need to be cleaned. This, Charlotte Linlin's face was ashen, and the blue veins on her forehead burst out. Okay. It's indeed a dream. My mother will settle the account with you today. All on. She roared loudly, and suddenly, dozens of figures rushed towards Chin Young. Whether it is a fighter, a cadre, or a desert general, as long as a member with a certain fighting power, the moment Big Mom gives an order, these people will attack from 360 degrees without dead ends. Death. Dreams. Charlotte Smoothie shouted loudly. The woman with long legs approached first. She pulled out the long sword on her back and slashed towards Chin Young. This woman has outstanding fighting power, and the bounty is as high as 900 million, which is infinitely close to the existence of admiral level. When you take a shot, you will shout to die. That's what the weak will say. You are too arrogant. Chin Yang's expression was calm, as if it was not a cutting-edge fighting force of the Four Emperors pirates, but a group of monkeys wielding swords. Facing the siege, Chin Yang gently raised his right hand and pointed out Vivi with his index and middle fingers. The 61 binding path 6 stand light prison. Boom. With a muffled sound, 6 light pieces appeared out of thin air. The light pieces locked Charlotte Smoothie, pierced into her waist in an instant, and fixed it directly in place, unable to move. What? Smoothie looked shocked when she realized she couldn't break free. At this moment, an attack had already fallen on Chin Young. That's Peckham's, with a bounty of 300 million, a tortoise fruit ability. This person couldn't hold back for a long time, and he was the first to shoot, and at this moment, a punch slammed into Chin 3.5 Yang's chest. Fantasy. __. Boom. With a loud bang, Chin Young Vivi raised his hand and caught the opponent's full blow with ease. There is more than explosive power, but unfortunately the punching power is too weak. Chin Young commented, and then slowly stretched out a finger in the eyes of the other party. With this finger, he pointed to the opponent's chest from a distance. Fourth of breaking the way by lay. The next moment, a white thunder light traversed hundreds of meters, instantly piercing everything, and nothing could stop it. What? Someone looked sluggish. This monster. Facing the siege, he didn't even mean to draw a sword. Chin Young really didn't mean to use a sword. A mere group of remnants, with bare hands, was enough to deal with it. Don't worry, gentlemen, you will experience despair. Chin Yang's eyes narrowed, and the next moment, a huge spiritual pressure suddenly came. In an instant, he fell to his knees. Chapter-262-Black Coffin Crackdown. The third update This is the third update of number 27. I'm so sorry, yesterday a friend took me out for a drink. I was half drunk and fell asleep as soon as I got home. I woke up after 4 in the morning. I suddenly remembered that there was a chapter I didn't write yesterday, so I quickly got up and wrote. Boom. An unimaginably huge spiritual pressure suddenly descended. The spiritual pressure is like rain, and it is almost visible to the naked eye, as if heavy pressure is constantly coming from above the sky. The ear roared, the earth shook, no, the entire dream world was shaking, as if it could not bear the pressure. Bang bang bang. Among the dozens of people under siege, all of them collapsed in an instant. Ordinary combatants couldn't keep standing. The closer they got to Qin Yang, the more pressure they suffered. There is no need to dodge, and no counterattack, just release their own spiritual pressure, and it is difficult for these besiegers to get close. What is this? Conqueror hockey? Impossible. It's not hockey. I can't even stand under this power. Many people exclaimed and fell to the ground one by one, as if an invisible big hand was pressing their heads and pressing them down abruptly. Qin Yang's face was as usual, his eyes swept across, but he saw that there were 4 or 5 people who remained in their state, especially 15 desert Zhangxing, who could maintain an offensive posture even under his spiritual pressure. Just as he was about to take action, at this moment, behind Qin Yang, a soul substance suddenly emerged from the ground and quickly condensed into a soul incarnation. At the moment when the avatar appeared, Charlotte Linlin in the distance suddenly disappeared and switched into space with the avatar. The next moment, Charlotte Linlin stretched out her right hand, like a ghost claw, and grabbed Qin Yang's back. Soul claw. The ghost claws are ugly, the nails are sharp, and the whole hand is covered with a special soul substance. It seems that it can directly ignore the body and forcibly attack the soul. Facing this sudden sneak attack, Qin Yang didn't seem to react, letting Ghost Claw fall behind him. He go to hell. I will make your soul into the most delicious pastries. Charlotte Linlin looks crazy, with hatred in her eyes. Qin Yang didn't respond, or she didn't have time to respond, her ghost claws directly caught the other party's vest. A move that ignores the body and directly attacks the soul. Normally, this claw will penetrate into the opponent's body, smashing the soul, and at the same time not hurting the body. However, the moment this claw touched Qin Yang, there was a loud bang and a burst of sound. Then, a shot came out, which directly exploded Charlotte Linlin's ghost claw. What? Charlotte Linlin looked horrified and said in disbelief, "You actually..." She sucked in a breath of cold air, and then backed frantically, having retreated for hundreds of meters before stopping in surprise. All this happened very fast, from her sneak attack, to the explosion of the ghost claw, and then to the rapid retreat to open the distance. It took only 1 second before and after. At this time, Qin Yang turned around unhurriedly and looked at Charlotte Linlin from a distance. To underestimate the enemy is a big taboo. Do you think I would be unprepared for a sneak attack from behind? You bastard! Charlotte Linlin stared coldly at Qin Yang and said, "Your body is not flesh and blood, but is made of soul." The body of flesh and blood could not stop her ghost claw at all. Just now, her ghost claw hit the target with precision, but the target exploded in turn, a stronger force, which directly burst her ghost claw. At this moment, Charlotte Power's right hand is still dripping blood. It's a pity, you guessed wrong. Qin Yang chuckled, slowly pulled out the Zanpakuto from his waist, and slowly walked towards the other side. It's not that the soul is condensed, but it is the soul itself. We call it spirit, body. Pause. He smiled again. In words that you can understand, your soul and soul fruit is just a superficial application of the soul. In this field, you are not even a child. Hearing this, Charlotte Linlin's face became more and more ugly. She had fought against Emperor Qin and knew the power of Captain Dream, but at that time, Emperor Qin's strength was not as strange as the deputy captain in front of him. Watching Qin Yang approaching step by step, Charlotte Linlin subconsciously took a step back, as if she felt ashamed again. Her face was gloomy enough to drip water. Why don't you attack me? Qin Yang sneered calmly. Are you afraid of me? If you want to kill me, you should get closer. In other words, you are observing and analyzing my ability. Unfortunately, this is meaningless. Observation and analysis are useful. The prerequisite is that the two sides are evenly matched, and there is a level gap called dimension between me and you. With that said, Qin Yang's figure moved and suddenly disappeared. What? Charlotte Linlin looked shocked. She is confident that there is no distraction, and observation hockey has been locking on Qin Yang, but for a moment, she can't even see how the other party disappeared. The only thing that is known is that the other party broke out at an unimaginable speed at a special pace. The next moment, a peaceful voice rang in my ears. "Look, I've already walked up to you, and you haven't responded." Qin Yang stabbed with a sword and slowly stabbed Charlotte Linlin's chest. "How is it possible?" Charlotte Linlin's pupils shrank suddenly. At such a close distance, she was unable to detect the appearance of the other party at the first time, but the other party launched an attack first, and she could only react later. That's too late. She is not good at speed, even if it is a soul exchange. It takes time to prepare, and this time is enough for this sword to pierce her body. Lijet. In critical moments, she roared. In fact, she didn't need her reminder. Lijet in the distance had already stretched out her hand in Qin Yang's direction. She reached out, grabbed, and pulled. An instant, Charlotte Linlin disappeared out of thin air, not a soul exchange, nor an explosion in speed, but ignoring the spatial distance and jumping directly. Dream Realm still has such ability. Qin Yang's sword fell in the air, and said somewhat unexpectedly, "Mengmeng fruit is really strange." However, as soon as his words fell, suddenly, a force of repulsion from the whole world suppressed him. This is because the entire dream world is rejecting him and wants to suppress him, and this pressure has increased exponentially. At first there was only a little feeling, but the effort of just one sentence has become so huge that it seems to crush people. At this time, the top combat power of the 5 Big Mom pirates came to Qin Yang in unison. Previously shocked by the spiritual pressure, now Qin Yang was rejected by the dream world, and the spiritual pressure weakened. They immediately resorted to the ultimate move in order to kill them with one blow. Go to hell, Aizen. HMPH, the suppression of the entire dream world, although it can't do anything to you, but restraining you for a second is enough. Death, you are the first, sooner or later we will go to the dream for revenge. Swords, spears, fists, and feet, these 5 attacked Qin Yang at almost the same time. Qin Yang couldn't help but laugh at the series of attacks from the opposite side. It's amazing to work so hard. Just stepping over the ants without killing them, the power is more difficult to control with 050. Quote. In the light of laughter, Qin Yang flipped the VV in his left hand, and suddenly, the dark light flickered in the palm of his hand. With 2 babbles, there seemed to be dark electric lights flickering in the space. Then, with Qin Yang as the center, a huge black coffin board instantly rose up. This huge black coffin board shrouded the 5 attackers. The outside cannot see the inside, not even the observation hockey can look inside. On the top of the coffin board, there are crosses interspersed on it, and the whole thing exudes an unlucky atmosphere. The 90 of the broken Tao, the black coffin. Accompanied by a chant, there was a sudden vibration inside the black coffin board. Then, the coffin board began to dissipate, starting from the bottom, as if it had turned into powder layer by layer. Charlotte Power and Lijiet looked at them blankly, only to see Qin Yang walking out slowly. In the back, 5 people were covered in casualties, and they all fell to the ground with screams. What? Lijiet opened her mouth, shocked. In an instant, were they all killed in seconds? She didn't know exactly what happened, but the scene in front of her made her think about everything. Qin Yang shook his head and said regretfully, sure enough, he gave up singing in a hurry, and he didn't even have 1/5 of the power. And hearing this murmur, Charlotte Linlin's heart twitched even more. With only 1/5 of the power, 5 top combat powers, including 2 desert generals, such 5 great pirates were instantly killed so easily. If it was her, absolutely not, and neither could Whitebeard. The person in front of him is indeed beyond the existence of the 4 emperors. Damn dream, every single one is a monster. She secretly hated and murdered, but her heart was sad. It is complex and indescribable. Chapter 0263_full hypnosis. Charlotte Linlin was in a complicated mood. The 5 top combat powers were instantly killed, but looking at Qin Yang's appearance, he didn't use all his strength at all. This is the Dream Co-Captain. She gritted her teeth, stared at her, and at the same time whispered, "Ligiette, send him to that place." That place. Ligiette was stunned, and then said, "He can even endure rejection from the dream world, but forcible teleportation can't do it, Mom." The old lady came to suppress him. "The time is only 1 second at most, you must seize the opportunity." Yes. Although the conversation between the two was very light, Qin Yang's perception was so sharp that he could still hear it. "Although I don't know what they will do, Qin Yang will not underestimate the enemy, and underestimating the enemy is a taboo. There are only 2 of you left. The people who can be called combat power have basically fallen. Charlotte Linlin, what else do you have?" Qin Yang stopped and looked at the 2 of them calmly. Big Mom is not in a hurry, he has to control the woman Ligiette, otherwise there is someone with the power of Mingmeng fruit. She will assist Charlotte Linlin on the side, and it will be very troublesome to fight. Hearing this, Charlotte Linlin's eyes flashed, and the wound on her right hand was repaired in a short time. At this moment, her right palm opened, and a special ghost appeared on it. "It's this attitude, all of your dream people have this attitude and tone. That's why the old lady has always been upset with you. Shadow Demon, Sea Dragon, Emperor Qin, and you are all like this." Charlotte Linlin's eyes were bloodshot, and she said fiercely, "It seems that everything is under control, this is arrogance." As she spoke, the special soul in her right palm was already emitting a dazzling white light, turning into a scorching sun. The next moment, she raised her right hand high, and the scorching sun instantly swelled, turning into a huge white fireball, slamming into Qin Yang. The right hand sun. Boom boom boom. The huge fireball that rolled away seemed to distort the space wherever it passed. Even if it was nearly 100 meters away, the wind and heat waves were so scorching that people couldn't open their eyes. Seeing this, Qin Yang's expression was the same as usual, and he was unmoved. He just sang softly in his mouth, "The 81 binding Tao, broken air." Suddenly, a huge wall of spiritual pressure condensed in front of him. This defensive wall seems to divide the 2 sides of the space. The blazing white fireball slammed into the sky, and then exploded violently. Boom. The wind was blowing, and the heat wave washed over everything. The aftermath that spread out suddenly spread to streams and waterfalls, covering almost everything within a radius of several hundred meters. The smoke billowed, and the field of vision was filled with white light. The whole scene was chaotic, especially at the center of the explosion, where the temperature was as high as tens of thousands of degrees, and most people couldn't even breathe. However, Qin Yang, who was standing behind Duankong, had a calm expression, and the number 81 tie was enough to defend against this attack. Use some strange moves. In the distance, Charlotte Linlin and Ligiette avoided far away. She snorted coldly, and said, "Ligiette, use the dream world to suppress him." Yes. Suddenly, Qin Yang felt a repulsion again. Tilde. It was like a peculiar pressure that pressed his body from the outside in from all directions. Tilde. At this moment, behind Qin Yang, under the earth, a dark soul broke out. This soul is incomparably huge, with a body of 100 meters, like a monster. Only a pair of round eyes, emitting a stunning light. In the roar, 2 tentacles stretched out from the monster's body and slammed towards Qin Yang. He, are you afraid to get close? The judgment is correct, but it is meaningless. Instant step. As soon as the voice fell, before the 2 soul tentacles hit him, Qin Yang's figure suddenly disappeared. Observation hockey couldn't catch it. It wasn't a matter of not being able to catch up with Shunpo, but because the system was different. To see Shunpo clearly, you must have Reiki. Boom. The 2 soul tentacles slammed the earth, and in the next instant, the sword light flashed. Puff puff. The huge monster was cut in half, separated from top to bottom, exploded with a puff, and turned into a soul substance that filled the sky. What? Charlotte Linlin was taken aback. Ordinary slashing can't have such a strong effect, that sword. Monsters are aggregates of souls, the combined product of countless incarnations of souls, with the characteristic of being immune to general physical attacks. However, at this moment, a sword was cut. Before Charlotte Linlin could return to her senses, suddenly, Qin Yang, who was 100 meters away, disappeared again, and the next moment, he appeared in front of her. Damn it! Can this high-speed movement ability be used without limit? She was horrified, and subconsciously retreated, pulling away. However, Qin Yang didn't pay any attention to her, but stretched out his left palm towards Ligiette on the other side. Eyes condensed, spiritual pressure gathered. Sleeping palm. Ligiette froze inwardly, only to feel an impact reaching out to her soul. The next moment, her eyelids were heavy, and she was attacked by a strong sense of sleepiness. Mom. She only had time to say half a sentence before she fell backwards. With a bang, Ligiette fell to the ground softly and fell asleep. As she fell into a drowsiness, the repulsive force on Qin Yang's body disappeared without a trace. You bastard, you targeted her in the first place. Charlotte Linlin yelled angrily. You're all alone. Qin Yang threw a knife flower and turned the Zanpakuto upside down. This tachi is not an ordinary sword, it's called Zanpakuto, a weapon designed to slash the soul. That's why it was only possible just now. Charlotte Linlin was very alert, not daring to be careless. HMPH, what do you want to do to tell the old lady? Nothing. Qin Yang chuckled at Isho and said, I'm not a murderer. Since you can survive your heart piercing, I want you to do one thing for me more than killing you. Dream. Charlotte Linlin grinned, revealing an ugly, terrifying smile. My mother would rather die than let you go. Really, humans, don't talk too much. Qin Yang raised his eyebrows and raised his Zanpakuto again, continuing the topic just now. My Zanpakuto can perform 2 stages of liberation. The first stage is called Shikai, and the second stage is called Bankai. The liberation of the sword is the liberation of Reiatsu. Quote. What? Charlotte Linlin has a bad feeling that makes her quite irritable. Just heard Qin Yang continue. I'm not trying to explain my abilities to you, but to tell you a fact. After Shikai, my spiritual pressure can be doubled, and after Bankai, my spiritual pressure can reach 5 to 10 times. Of course, this is bragging. Even with Shikai, Qin Yang's Reiatsu won't increase much. Because Aizen Soyusuke is quite special, and unlike the general Shinigami, his Reiatsu, even in the state where Zanpakuto is not released, has already approached the limit of Shinigami. However, Charlotte Linlin didn't know. She heard this suddenly, her body couldn't help shaking. If he didn't lie, that is to say, the monster in front of him could be more than 5 times stronger. Of course, it's not important. Qin Yang looked at the other party's expression playfully and said, Zanpakuto Shikai, the real effect is to liberate its abilities. Next, please take a good look at it. As soon as the voice fell, the blue light of the blade of Zanpakuto flashed, as if there was a sound of sword cries. Charlotte Linlin looked at this scene in surprise. She looked at everything deadly. However, the moment she saw the blue light of the blade, her 5 senses were already under the control of Jinghua Shuiyu. And he himself didn't know it. He. Qin Yang suddenly let out a low laugh, shook his head and said, You are a soul fruit person, and I even said some nonsense with great care, just to divert your attention and prevent you from being able to detect anything in the end. It was me. Think too much. What did you do? Charlotte Linlin looked gloomy, and in her eyes, nothing happened. Qin Yang pointed his sword and took 1 step. You are already dead. Puff. Charlotte Linlin looked horrified. She lowered her head in disbelief, and in her chest, a blade pierced from behind. No, it's impossible you. She raised her head again, but her pupils shrank, disappeared. In front of the field of vision, Qin Yang, 100 meters away, seems to be a flower in a mirror and a moon in the water, slowly dissipating in a rippling wave. And a voice sounded, as if from all directions. The name of the knife is Jinghua Shuiyu, and the ability is complete hypnosis. Chapter 0264 The Apology of 50 Fruits. Second update tilde regarding the protagonist who underestimates the enemy, How can there be any underestimation of the enemy? The purpose of the protagonist is to completely hypnotize the ant, and what he says is only to distract the other party's attention. After all, it is a soul fruit, and it is possible to detect something, although the possibility is very low. Then, killing Auntie is of no use to the protagonist. Dream needs to use her to collect devil fruits. If you want to kill Ant, Dream's dominant cadres can do it, and you don't need the deputy captain to take action. Close black lens bracket. The knife's name is Jinghua Shuiyu, and its ability is totally hypnotized. Qin Yang's voice came from all directions, his tone was vague and unpredictable. Charlotte Linlin's eyes were distracted, her chest was pierced by a sword, and she turned her head back with difficulty, but she couldn't see any figure at all. "Come out," she shouted, and she vomited blood. Blood sprayed out, and Charlotte Linlin's face paled a little. "I've been there, you just can't see it." Qin Yang's voice sounded again, however, Charlotte Linlin still couldn't find it. Her top-level observation hockey can cover the entire dream world in an instant, and it is impossible to detect its existence. This means that the other party's hidden ability is still above her observation hockey. Of course, this was just her guess, and in fact, it wasn't. Observation hockey is only the power of listening, while Jinghua Shuiyu is completely hypnotic, which naturally includes hearing. Qin Yang thought that it would be easy for 343 to avoid observation hockey's detection. Cough, Charlotte Linlin coughed, her consciousness began to lose consciousness, she slammed and knelt down on one knee. "You won, kill the old lady." The opponent's ability is too strange. She suffered such a serious injury without knowing it, and she is no longer an opponent. He. A chuckle sounded, and Qin Yang's voice came. "Since you admit defeat, then you can have a good talk." Having said that, he paused before saying, "The grievance between you and I, etc., started when you didn't keep your word." At first, he had a grudge with Big Mom, because Dream captured one of Charlotte Linlin's sons and extorted a sum of money. Of course, due to the development of things, Dream had a short-term cooperation with the Big Mom pirates. 10 billion Baileys, the Big Mom pirates invited the Ocean Master, Sea Dragon to repel the Marine fleet to prevent Marine from interfering in the war between them and the Whitebeard pirates. As a result, the Sea Dragon was actually completed, which caught Charlotte Linlin by surprise. Subject to the war scene at the time, Charlotte Linlin was unwilling to hand over 10 billion. However, his untrustworthy attitude and his attitude of wanting to default on his debts were exposed, so Heilong shot directly and taught the Big Mom pirates a lesson. Afterwards, the Big Mom pirates escaped. Later, Heilong sneaked into Cake Island, snatched 5 fruits, advanced to 5 stars, and joined forces with Emperor Qin to destroy them. Resort, the remnants of the Big Mom pirate group hid in the dream world. This hiding is 3 or 4 months, until today. Speaking of which, this is not a grievance that requires you to live and die, it's just that you kill yourself. I'm waiting for a dream, no offense. Qin Yang said lightly, but Emperor Qin pierced your heart after all. Since you can survive, that's your ability. You want to say that the grievance ends here? Charlotte Linlin sneered, she didn't believe such nonsense. Just as soon as she finished speaking, she vomited blood again, and she became more and more tired. Of course it won't end here. Qin Yang said, I'm here to find you this time. You should be glad. If Emperor Qin shot, you'd be dead long ago. What do you want? If you want to live, I can give you a chance. Qin Yang was not arguing and said bluntly, in order to deal with you, I have spent a lot of effort. As the defeated party, these losses will be compensated by you. Money, devil fruits. Charlotte Linlin was angry, but had to hold back. No matter how dissatisfied she is, she has to bow her head at this moment, unless she wants to die. Money, I don't need it. You are ready to pay 50 devil fruits, and this matter is written off. Qin Yang Lion opened his mouth, his tone was serious, and he didn't give the other party any room to bargain at all. 50 fruits. Charlotte Linlin was furious, Her pale face turned red with anger. Do you know what this concept is? Whether to die, or prepare to make amends, choose one of the two. Qin Yang pouted. It's just 50 fruits. I can give you a year. If you can't get them within a year, you will still perish. No doubt, I wait for the people who want to kill in the dream, even if they hide on the moon. Come on, I'll be able to find it. Hearing this, Charlotte Linlin was silent. At this point, she believes that she is hiding in the dream world, and the dream can forcibly break in. Where else can stop the other party? No. A year, 50 fruits. With the remaining power of the Big Mom pirates, it is very difficult, but it is not impossible. It is also a good thing to be able to end the grievance with the dream like this. Charlotte Linlin's heart is sad and dignified, and she is forced to such a degree. How cruel is this group of people? Thinking of this, she whispered. The old lady agrees. 50 fruits, 1 year, the end of the grudge. Popping. The applause sounded, and the next moment, a voice came. Break it, Jinghua Shuiyu. Boom. The sound of cracking sounded, and all falsehoods suddenly disappeared. Charlotte Linlin was shocked. She was shocked to find that the wound on her chest was gone, and there was no blade piercing her chest at all. Everything is exactly the same as her previous state. This is an illusion, she gasped, shaking her heart. Such a real illusion, no different from reality. Charlotte calmly, since you have agreed, the agreement will take effect. This capable person, as a hostage, will be handed over to me within this year. The dream world of Mengmeng fruit is more troublesome. Reason why Qin Yang chose her as a hostage was mainly to abolish the dream world. As long as Big Mom couldn't hide in the dream world, the shadow demon wanted to find her in an instant. Thinking of this, Qin Yang snapped his fingers, and suddenly, a wisp of black smoke drifted out and condensed into a dark figure. Shadow demon. Charlotte Linlin's expression changed slightly. She has been in contact with shadow demons a lot, and the person who pierced her heart was the shadow demon. This guy wants to play sneak attack, and she will be attacked if she is not caught. Shadow world. As soon as the shadow demon appeared, he stretched out his hand to the unconscious Ligiette, grabbed him, and threw the person directly into the shadow world. Then, his body dissipated directly and disappeared again. Seeing this, Qin Yang swept across the broken battlefield and said, I have always been merciful, these people have not really died, you can send them to collect devil fruits. 50 per year, you can do it yourself, if it is not completed. With that said, Qin Yang's figure disappeared directly. One step out, it is hundreds of meters, and in an instant, the figure has disappeared. Watching each other disappear, Charlotte Linlin sat down. Her face was complicated, her fists clenched. Damn dream. The other party just took a Ligiette as a hostage, this attitude is arrogance. Do you think the old lady is not a threat? As long as you want to kill, you can kill at any time. Charlotte Linlin is furious, but has to admit, it's true. Not to mention Emperor Qin and the God of Death, the two Super 4 Emperor-level powerhouses, even if the sea dragon below this is enough for her to drink a pot. Even shadow demons like tarsal maggots are extremely difficult to deal with. The old lady admits it. You were ruthless. Grinning her teeth to herself, Charlotte Linlin accepted the reality. Now, she has to clean up the battlefield and leave the dream world as soon as possible. The capable person has been taken away, and the dream world will probably be lifted soon, so she has to leave before that. Chapter 0265_not so big. A few monthly passes tilde. Are you awake? Above the vast sea, a woman lies on the back of a huge whale. The female has long blonde hair and looks a little tired. After waking up, her previous memory gradually emerged. Where is this? Ligiette sat up hurriedly, and then saw Qin Yang not far in front of her, Aizen. Her tone was unfriendly and wary. You are a prisoner now, don't try to escape. Of course, if you want to escape, I will not stop it. I will go back and kill all the remnants of the Big Mom pirates. Qin Yang's expression was calm, and he was not interested in looking at her, so he said bluntly. Recounted the promise of the dream and Charlotte Linlin. After listening to the narration, Ligiette fell silent. Charlotte family is still alive, which is good news, but raising 50 devil fruits in a year is a tall order. Suddenly, Chin Yang said again, I am curious, you're not from the Charlotte family, why are you so desperate? Is it the illegitimate daughter of Charlotte Linlin? Mom is kind to me. Ligiette said softly, and then gritted her teeth, since my mother has agreed, then I will not resist. Now, are you going to take me to your dream stronghold? Then imprison me. She didn't explain much, and seemed to avoid the topic on purpose. In fact, she didn't lie either. Charlotte Linlin did kindness to her. Even her dream fruit was given to her by Charlotte Linlin. Chin Yang is not interested in getting to know more about it, he is just a hostage. No, go to Kaido waters first. As for you, as long as you don't run. In fact, it doesn't matter if he runs away, it's a big deal that Chin Yang goes back to find Big Mom's trouble. Not to mention Chin Yang's actions, on the other side, Marine headquarters. In a conference room, unlike usual, only a few people attended this meeting. Marshal Sengoku, Hero Garp, Admiral Kuzan, and a pirate. The pirate is tall and has a short male ponytail on his head. His appearance is slightly ugly, and his smile is even more unbearable to look at. This person's real name is Mi, commonly known as Big Mark. He was born in West Blue and has a bounty of 320 million. The captain of the thief pirates, one of the biggest things he has done over the years, is stealing, and the object is Whitebeard. Once from Whitebeard's Moby Dick, he stole a box of going and jewelry, and poisoned the food in the kitchen at the same time, but unfortunately only the chef was poisoned to death. Kakaka, which means from today, I'm Shichibukai. At this moment, Big Mark laughed twice, his eyes flickering, I have the privilege to steal at will. Very well, Sengoku, I agree, I wanted to go to the Holy Land early in the morning, there must be a big secret of the world hidden there. As he said, he became more and more energetic, isn't the dreamy shadow demon very powerful? He can sneak into the Holy Land and kill a Tenryubito, I think I will have no problem. It's interesting to think about it, I heard that there are holy guards in the Holy Land, one by one. They are all capable, ha ha ha. Quote. Pirates are all like this, arrogant. Sengoku's face was bad, and he murmured inwardly. Bullshit. With a cold snort, Sengoku said in a deep voice, Pirate Mark, Shichibukai is not for you to play. If you become Shichibukai, our marine will no longer take action against your pirate group, but your existence is for balance. It's so long-winded, Sengoku, I know what you want to do. Big Mark curled his lips in disdain, now that the evil forces are stronger, you are nothing more than compromise, forming Shichibukai, and using the power of 7 great pirates to balance the situation. Quote. This balance is to suppress the first half of the Great Root, and put it in the New World, the 4 emperors are too lazy to pay attention to Shichibukai. Current 5 Shichibukai, the world's largest swordsman, Hawkeye, can enter the eyes of the 4 emperors. For such rude words, Sengoku's face darkened and he hummed, Kuzan, did you explain to him? It's very unreliable. Garp shook his head and said, I think it's better to grab it directly. There are 5 candidates, and he is not the strongest one. Kakaka, Garp, if you were the marine hero from 10 years ago, of course I would surrender, but unfortunately, you're getting old too. Big Mark laughed, just the 3 of you can't catch me, or I dare to come directly to the headquarters. He is not good at fighting, or in other words, his fighting power is not very strong, but his ability is strange. Generally, Admiral can't do anything about him. Even Whitebeard couldn't catch him, otherwise, he would have been killed by the Whitebeard pirates long ago because he dared to sneak into the Moby Dick and poison him. Seeing that the talks between the 2 sides were about to collapse, Kuzan had to stand up and say, don't be too arrogant. If you want the title of Shichibukai, you must cooperate with our marine work. Work? What work? Finally got to the point, Sengoku said bluntly, I originally asked you to join in order to deal with the rise of fantasy, but now there is a more important thing for you to do. Make me an enemy of fantasy. Big Mark's face changed slightly. I'm so sorry, I don't want to die yet. Big Mom is finished. I'm not interested in pulling the tiger's beard, and the title of Shichibukai is not worth my risk. He dared to go to the Moby Dick to poison Whitebeard, but he didn't dare to provoke the Dream Pirates. There are monsters in it, and a dominant cadre who comes out at random as a trouble. And after hearing his words, Sengoku suddenly narrowed his eyes. I'm not asking you to deal with them, but to steal something. Needless to say, I refuse. Big Mark pouted. If it's Whitebeard, I can agree immediately. It's not the first time I've done it anyway, but to deal with the dream, you can find someone else. As for the title of Shichibukai, love it or not. Saying that, he wanted to run away. But Kuzan was already prepared and stopped first, saying, don't worry, you will be interested. Sengoku closed his eyes and pondered for a long time before he said, you are the one who steals the fruit ability, no one is more suitable than you. So, I haven't lived enough. Big Mark was furious. Pluto's blueprint. What did you say? Big Mark widened his eyes and looked at Sengoku in disbelief. The New World, the Sea of Red Hair. A ship flying a red-haired pirate flag blocked the front of a huge whale. This is a pirate ship under the command of the red-haired pirates. On its deck, several pirates walked out. These people looked at the whale, to be precise, at the man in the feather knitting on the head of the whale. Excuse me, is it a dreamer? Someone asked loudly. Chinyong opened his eyes and looked at it calmly. How do you know? The dreamy sea dragon has an army of sea beasts. This whale has appeared before and has long been remembered, so as soon as you enter the red-haired sea area, someone will report it, and we will wait here in advance. The pirate smiled and said, although I don't know which one of your dreams is, our captain wants to meet you. A redhead. Chinyong raised his eyebrows, thought for a moment, and then reacted. At this time, the pirate threw out a letter, which Chinyong grabbed easily with his hand, and then opened it to take a look. After a while, he shredded it directly. The pirate's expression changed slightly, and he was very upset. Chinyong was too lazy to pay attention to him, and said bluntly, you go back and tell the red hair that we dream of owing him a favor, but it doesn't mean that he can control our actions. He doesn't have that much face. Chapter-261 Are you waiting for me? He doesn't have that much face. What Chinyong said was quite polite. If it were someone else, it wouldn't be the answer to this level. The content mentioned by the red hair in the letter is very simple. Please dream not to auction the design drawings of the ancient weapon Hades, and explain the reasons. Although he doesn't know the specific situation, Chinyong can also guess. Doflamingo has already begun to take action to spread the news about the #1 auction in the world. As one of the 4 emperors, it is inevitable for the red hair to get the news. The reason for the redhead's blocking is even simpler. At that time, the auction will gather a large number of careerists. How could this group of people obediently watch the blueprints being bought by others, and it will definitely lead to war. It's not to the extent that one force is fighting against another, but a super war of multiple forces. For this kind of situation, Chinyong has foreseen, it is almost certain that it will happen, but so what? Dream is not afraid at all. This group of people will fight whenever they want, as long as they are honest at the auction site. If they don't even want to abide by the rules at the auction, they will naturally kill the chickens and set an example to others. Therefore, Chinyong didn't want to deal with the red hair. Although he owed the other party a favor, the favor was not big enough for him to give up the auction. My answer is that's it, you can just go back and explain to the redhead. Chinyong said unceremoniously, and then gestured to the huge whale, ignoring the pirate ship directly, and continued to going towards the Kaido Sea area. Wait a minute, the pirate hurriedly shouted, I already know your answer, but please tell me, who are you in the dream? Deputy Captain. A word floated, and then Chinyong stopped answering. Watching the giant whale gradually go away, the several pirates on the pirate ship all peeped at each other and looked at each other in surprise. It turned out to be the deputy captain. The vice captain is above the dominant cadre, right? It doesn't seem to be anything special at all. Idiot, didn't you see the woman behind that person? That's legit, a special officer of the Big Mom Pirates. Big Mom Pirates and the Dream Pirates. Now a cadre has been captured by the vice captain of the Dream, and this cadre is also a Dream Fruit ability, which is very reverie. Someone moved in his heart and whispered, "It is rumored that the Big Mom Pirates did not completely perish, but fled into the dream world." Now. He didn't need to say anything later, and several people took a deep breath. This time, I am afraid that the Big Mom Pirates are really finished. Anyway, report to the boss first. The pirate who had talked to Chin Young earlier took out his phone and dialed a number. After a while, the call was connected. "How's it going?" A red-haired voice called Q. Tilda. Reporting Granny W. We met the dreamy man, but he tore up the letter on the spot and you refused. He didn't dare to say, "You don't have that much face," but changed it slightly. Ming. Really? The redhead didn't seem surprised. "I know which way he's going. The Kaido Sea." "So it is." As if to understand something, the red-haired asked with a smile, "Who is this person? Which one of the dreams exists? Is it a sea dragon?" "No, he calls himself the co-captain." "Vice captain." Hong was in a daze, and his tone suddenly became solemn. "Also, boss, this person has captured Legit from the Big Mom Pirates." Not to mention the conversation between the redhead and the younger brother. On the other side, the huge whale carrying the two of them went to the Kaido Sea area at high speed. At this moment, Li Jiet, who had been silent for a while, suddenly spoke up and said, "I just peeked." Chin Young did not respond. Li Jiet said in surprise again, "You are going to auction the blueprints of Hades, and the ancient weapons are actually in your hands." Of course, she knew that ancient weapons, Hades, was an existence that could sink an island with one shot. "You talk a lot, little girl." Chin Young glanced at her calmly, and said, "I don't like making noise." "You are really not afraid of the sky?" Li Jiet still said, "The scale of the forces gathered will be far beyond imagination. Are you not afraid that they will join forces? It is very likely that with the value of the ancient weapon blueprints, there are many ambitious people who can't afford the price, and this group of people may not necessarily participate in the auction obediently. Moreover, Marine absolutely does not allow the disclosure of drawings, and will definitely do it when the time comes." He. Hearing this, Chin Yang chuckled twice. "Will I not know what you can think of? Even if I become an enemy of the whole world, what should I be afraid of?" After a pause, he added, "We are absolutely invincible ahead of us." "We are invincible ahead." Legit was stunned, and then gave a wry smile. "You are indeed very strong, a single force, and even the world government is not your opponent. But in the world, not only force, but sometimes there are other means. At least Marine will definitely do something to stop all this happen." Hearing the words, Chin Young kept his expression low, and expelled a bullet. The 11th of Binding Dao, "Stop talking." A flash of light shot out, and instantly turned into a piece of light. It was like a tape, and it easily sealed Ligiet's mouth, making it impossible to say a word. Ligiet opened her mouth, but couldn't. She wanted to tear off the light sheet, but it was difficult to touch. "You talk too much, pay attention to your identity." Chin Yang glanced at her speechlessly and said, "Everything is under control. As expected, Marine will ask someone to steal the blueprint before the auction. And the candidate. Speaking of which, 5 wanted orders flashed in Chin Yang's mind. This is the information that I saw on Sengoku's desk, 5 Shichibukai candidates, and one of them is the one who secretly has the ability to steal fruit, whose name is Big Mark. Do you think he'll be unguarded?" Chin Yang could have guessed these early in the morning. Although he was not sure whether the other party would do it or not, in any case, Chin Yang left Heilong there, enough to deal with everything. Moreover, It is impossible for them to steal it, because the blueprint was placed under the throne of the shadow world by him. Without a word, the giant whale gradually sailed into the depths of the sea. From one end of the red-haired sea, crossed to the other end, and gradually approached the Kaido Sea. 2 days later, at the point where it was about to leave the red-haired sea, a large ship stopped in front. The red-haired chess pieces are hung on the big ship, and on the deck above it are the main members of the red-haired pirates. A group of people looked at the end of the sea level, where a hill-like whale was slowly approaching. "Boss, I've seen it." Usopp put down the telescope and said, "A man and a woman, both young. The woman is legit, the man is probably the vice captain. Besides, he found me." The redhead hugged his chest with both hands, and said, "Be careful, if there is a fight later, you can run as far as you can, and don't get close to 5.1. Hey, you guy, do you really want to fight?" Ben Beckman spat out the toothpick in his mouth and couldn't help but say, "Give it up, it's useless to stop him, there's Emperor Chin above." "It must be stopped, this time," the red hair sighed, "maybe it's a world war." Just as he finished speaking, Usopp suddenly exclaimed, "Disappeared." In his Yuan Wong territory, Chin Yang's figure suddenly disappeared. Everyone was shocked, and then they all stared at each other, but they couldn't find anything unusual. At this moment, a voice came from the sky. "You are waiting for me." Everyone's complexion changed slightly, and they looked up immediately. I saw above the sky, a man wearing a feather weave and a long sword on his waist, standing with his hands behind his back, like a god, looking down at all beings. Impossible. Usopp paled in horror. This is a distance of more than 10 nautical miles, and in such a short period of time, it appeared here. Chapter 0267 _ How to be confident. "You guys, are you waiting for me?" Chin Yang stood in the sky, his feet were in the void, and his spiritual pressure was condensed under his feet to form a foothold. He looked calmly at the group of pirates below. But the members of the red-haired pirates were full of shock. In less than a minute, it actually crossed 10 nautical miles. What a terrifying speed. Usopp had a bloody expression on his face. "I'm afraid that even if I snipe from a distance, he can dodge at will, this speed is terrible." Thinking of this, he hurriedly looked at the red hair and said, "Boss, I think it's okay. Even if there is a world war, it has nothing to do with us." In response, the red hair was noncommittal. He stared at Chin Yang with a serious expression, and said, "Deputy Captain." "I am." Chin Yang nodded and said, "Deputy Captain Dream, Death God, Aizen." "Redhead, what do you mean by stopping me here?" Hearing this, the redhead took a deep breath and said, "Aizen, why am I intercepting you here? You should know very well." "Stop it, you guys are playing a bit big this time." "Shut up." Chin Yang raised his eyebrows and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. "What a boring speech. Now, do you think it's possible? People who get news like you are like Crucian carp crossing the river. 15 Now that it has been known, the design drawings of Hades are in the hands of the Dream. So, whether or not the Dream will be auctioned, has already stirred up the world." Even if Chin Yang said now, "I was just joking, in fact, the drawings are fake," then someone has to believe it. No one will believe it, but those who are ambitious will swarm like sharks that smell fishy. Of course, the red hair understands this point, but even if he understands, he has to stop it. Once it breaks out, it is a world war, and the 4 emperors, Shichibukai, Marine, the world government, the major New World pirates, and even the hidden ambitions will all be involved. No one can be spared. Even the old antiques of the Roger era will come out to stir up the storm. Huh. A long sigh, the red-haired eyes flashed, and he said solemnly, "Aizen, I won't betray you." "How can you give up?" "It's very simple, 100 devil fruits." Chin Yang chuckled, "The purpose of my waiting has always been fruits, and the same is true for the auction. As long as you can come up with 100 pieces, I will give you the blueprint immediately. As for how to dispose of it as you wish. 100 pieces. The red-haired complexion turned black, and he gritted his teeth. "I'm not kidding." Hearing this, Qin Yang's smile narrowed and he said lightly, "Do you think I'm joking? Give me a face, how about this time?" The redhead said with a heavy expression, "As long as you hold an auction, a war will inevitably break out, and this war will sweep the whole new world." He didn't have the heart of the virgin and thought what would happen if a world-class war broke out, but once the war started, the four emperors would inevitably be involved in their red-haired pirates. F_L. Not to mention the losers of the war. At that time, the situation will be beyond anyone's control, and neither will it be a dream. Qin Yang resolutely ignored this kind of remark. He shook his head and said, "I said it before, red hair, your face is not that big." In a word, all negotiations were rejected. At this point, the redhead also extinguished the verbal persuasion. He sighed, and then his eyes narrowed, and a conqueror haki instantly enveloped this sea area. "Really? Then there is no way." His face was gloomy, and his momentum rose. In an instant, the calm sea surface became violent, and the ocean currents soared. As if the prelude to the storm, the brewing momentum has reached a peak. "Do you want to fight me?" Qin Yang said calmly, looking at nothing. "Where did you get the confidence?" "It's not self-confidence, it's a must." With a bang, the red hair pulled out the long sword from his waist, and then waved his hand to stop all the subordinates behind him. "You are ready to go, at least 10 nautical miles away, otherwise, I am not confident not to involve you." As soon as the voice fell, he slashed out with a sword. Suddenly, a huge sword energy swept away and rose into the sky. Highest momentum, the king's slash. Boss. A group of pirates were secretly anxious, but they did not dare to intervene at all. This was a battle of the four emperors. They went in and it was just a burden. Therefore, at the moment when the red hair started, Ben Beckman decisively turned the bow of the boat and prepared to evacuate. Above the sky, Qin Yang looked down at everyone. Facing the red-haired pinnacle of the sword, he also drew out the Zanpakuto. There aren't any fancy sword moves, just the blade is crossed in front. The next moment, boom! The huge slash touched the blade, and a dull sound erupted, as if a thunder had sounded out of thin air. Under the collision, the aftermath spread out, and in an instant, the entire sea surface was impacted. With the battle point as the center, the sea surface collapsed, setting off big waves in all directions. "Can it be blocked so easily?" The redhead frowned deeply. "It's much trickier than expected." At this moment, Qin Yang laughed, and then the sword light flashed, and he picked it up. Immediately, the red-haired slash was directed into the sky, and the thick cloud layer suddenly tore apart thousands of meters in the sky, as if an abyss appeared in the sky, stretching for hundreds of miles, covering the entire horizon. "Redhead, since you are waiting for me, then I can only repay you." Qin Yang was unsmiling, his eyes were terrifyingly calm, and "Qin, I will not kill you. I owe you a favor, this battle will spare your life." As soon as the voice fell, Qin Yang's figure suddenly disappeared. Instant step. With a swish, within the red-haired field of vision 447, Qin Yang's figure was lost. Mention the naked eye, even Hockey didn't have time to probe. "It's so fast," the redhead murmured solemnly. "Is it a special kind of pace?" "It's not a shave, nor is it a simple routine explosive force. No, his state can't be called routine at all." Just thinking about it, Qin Yang's figure has appeared in front of him. The red hair didn't have time to think, and subconsciously slashed it with a sword. "I will stop you. After defeating you, communicate with your captain." "Why are you confident?" Qin Yang closed his eyes, facing the red-haired slash. He did not raise his sword to resist, but stretched out his left hand. Ding! A sword fell, but there was no feeling of hitting the entity. The red-haired complexion changed greatly, and he was shocked to find that his sword was actually pinched by the opponent with 2 fingers. "What?" He widened his eyes and lost his voice. "It's not hockey, nor is it pure physical strength like Kaido. Who are you? Can't you understand?" "Of course, because you've never been in contact. So let me ask you again, how can you be confident?" Qinyang held the blade of the sword. While holding the hilt in his right hand, he gently stretched out his right fist towards the red hair. The bones of the beasts are scattered everywhere, the spires, the red crystals, the wheels of steel, the movement is the wind, the stop is the air, the sound of the long chang hitting each other fills the virtual city. The 63 Thunderbolt Cannons. Chapter 0268_Annihilate. Yesterday's third update. I'm so sorry. I wanted to lie down for a while, fell asleep, and slept until more than 7 o'clock the next day. The 63 Thunder Roar Cannon. The sound of Babel sounded, and golden lightning and thunder appeared between the fists. Along with the chant, the power of thunder and lightning overflowed, condensed into an electric cannon between the fists, and then suddenly shot forward. Huh! The red hair was taken aback. He was convinced that this was definitely not a fruit ability, let alone a lightning strike caused by manipulating natural elements, but an unknown power. In an instant, the thunder light was prosperous, the golden color was dazzling, and the thunder roar cannon swallowed the red hair in one breath. At such a close distance, his blade was caught by the opponent again, and the red hair had no time to dodge. Critical juncture. He can only release armament Haki. Haki forms an invisible armor on the front to defend against all attacks. However, the power of the thunder roar cannon still penetrated this defense, and the manic power of thunder and lightning hit the body, followed by an explosion. Boom! In the smoke and dust of the explosion, a figure glowing with black smoke, with thunderlight entrained in its body, flew upside down. The redhead groaned, his head was covered in blood, and half of his face was dyed red. He landed on a piece of driftwood while flying upside down, then knelt down on one knee and covered his left eye. He only felt that his body was paralyzed and his whole body was a little stiff, especially his left eye, which was soaked in blood, and his vision was blurred. Qinyang raised his eyebrows and said, "The reaction is very fast, but unfortunately, no matter how strong your armament is, it cannot be absolutely defended. Haki can only weaken the attack of the thunder roar cannon. If there is no weakening of Haki, the red hair can be severely injured with a single blow just now." This is Ghost Road number 63 fully chanted, and its power is comparable to the black coffin that was abandoned before. What kind of power is this? The red hair covered his left eye and stared only with his right eye. His tone was solemn and his condition was not very good. Ghost Dao. Qinyang didn't rush to attack, but walked forward. He stepped on the sea, like walking on the ground, specially attacking the soul. You should be paralyzed by now. Your Haki can resist the blasting of the thunder roar cannon, but cannot resist this paralysis. Quote. Not the body is paralyzed, but the soul. A little trauma in the flesh is not worth mentioning, but the red-haired soul at this moment is very weak. This point, the red hair can also detect. His trauma is not serious, but he just doesn't know why. He feels very weak. It turns out as expected of a dream, your abilities are very strange. I didn't expect that the level of the deputy captain would be so terrifying. The red-haired took a deep breath and stood up forcibly. I followed Captain Roger to fight around a long time ago. I have participated in countless battles, but this is the first time I have met an opponent like you. MP, really? Threatening to beat me without knowing anything about your opponent? Redhead, you are too arrogant. At Obu_. Enigmatic confidence. The redhead grinned and said with a smile, "It's not self-confidence, it's that I have to stop you. The era of the great pirates that Captain Roger opened has a last resort reason. What you have to do now is to ignite the war in the New World. Aizen, you know, what exists in Rahudal. Rahudal, the end of the Great Route. I'm not interested." Qinyang didn't bother to tell him any more, and suddenly disappeared when he moved. Seeing this, the red-haired eyes condensed, and the perception expanded from the limit state. The next moment, he suddenly turned sideways and raised his sword high. I saw Qinyang appear on his left-hand side in an instant, and this high-speed blow from behind him was blocked by him. It's true that your eyes can't keep up with your speed, but intuition can tell. Conqueror Haki burst out of the red hair. His conqueror is very powerful and can deal physical damage directly. Qin Yang could immediately sense that he seemed to have been forcibly put on a heavy armor, and even his movements were a little sluggish. Tips for carving bugs. Qin Yang's right hand suddenly exerted force, exerting stronger force, and with one blow, the red hair was sent flying again. The next moment, there was a loud bang. Boom! A huge spiritual pressure came down and enveloped this sea area. Even the red-haired pirates who were evacuating, everyone on the ship felt their bodies shaking. It was as if a large hand was pressing on their heads, forcing them to bend their knees and kneel to death. What is this? Hockey. Boss is dangerous. I'm coming. Suddenly, Usopp set up a sniper rifle, locked Qin Yang with the scope, and then pulled the trigger. Boom! A solid bullet, a small steel ball, hit Qin Yang's mouth at a high speed exceeding the speed of sound. At this moment, the steel ball covered armament hockey, increasing its destructive power. In almost 3 or 5 seconds, the first shot had already landed in front of Qin Yang. However, before the bullet hit Qin Yang's body, it struck an invisible layer of spiritual pressure. Boom! With a muffled sound, the steel ball was bounced off. What? Usopp was taken aback. I'm not blinded. There's a layer of defense on his body. However, just as he finished speaking, Qin Yang's figure suddenly disappeared in front of his field of vision. The next moment, Usopp's body shook and his head turned back stiffly, only to see that Qin Yang had appeared behind him at some point. He opened his mouth with horror on his face. It's not the defense layer, it's just the spiritual pressure that I naturally leaked. Qin Yang slowly stretched out a finger and pointed to Usopp's Shang mouth. Simply put, a shot with all your strength will not be able to break the spiritual pressure that I naturally leaked. The fourth one. Bailey. The lightning flashed, and the white-colored electric light condensed at the fingertips, and suddenly turned into a long chang, piercing the mouth of Usopp. Wow! Usopp pulled out his face, and he was paralyzed, except for a blood hole pierced through his mouth. Like a statue, he fell straight back. Usopp! The cadre lackey roared, and then became furious. His fat body inflated like a balloon and slammed towards Qin Yang. You bastard! One of the broken roads, rush! Qin Yang stretched out his finger again, and the spiritual power of his fingertip turned into a shock. In an instant, Lackey's fat body was like a cannonball. It was hit by a single blow, and flew directly off the deck and fell to the ground. In the ocean. I'm not interested in entanglement with you one by one. After all, I'm merciful, and its strength is difficult to control. Qin Yang's eyes narrowed, and in an instant, a huge spiritual pressure enveloped everyone. This was deliberately using spiritual pressure to suppress the opponent. Immediately, dozens of pirates on the deck all fell down in the blink of an eye. No, to be precise, there was another person standing. Ben Beckman struggled to support him, staring at Qin Yang with an ugly face, and said, "You monster. Can you suppress us with just your aura? It's impossible. Monster." Qin Yang flicked his fingers, and a spiritual pressure turned into a light bullet and shot straight at the opponent's forehead. I am the god of death, a mere human, trying to challenge the majesty of gods. Boom. The light bullet hit Beckman on the forehead, knocking him unconscious. In less than half a minute, the red-haired pirates, except for the captain, were all wiped out. Chapter 0269 Monkey D. Dragon. The first update / the update in these 2 days is a bit messy, sorry. In less than half a minute, the red-haired pirates, except for the captain, were all wiped out. On the sea in the distance, the red hair was floating in the sea. After seeing this scene, his anger suddenly rose. His eyes became sharp, like a bone-scraping blade, stabbing people horribly. The momentum also suddenly changed, the whole person became a lot gloomier, and the anger was suppressed. You. He looked sharp. The next moment, the sea burst open, and he approached at high speed in a posture of sticking to the sea. Seeing this, Qin Yang looked sideways. Your crew is rude, I'll take care of you. As soon as the voice fell, his figure suddenly disappeared from the deck. Then, Shunpo was intercepted in front of the red hair, and at the same time, the mirror flower in his hand suddenly fell. The redhead's reaction was extremely fast. He was a swordsman himself, with excellent eyesight. At the same time Chin-Yang attacked, he immediately clenched the blade and stepped forward. "It's not your turn to do it yet." Boom! The swords collided, and a shock wave spread out immediately. In an instant, the sea surface collapsed, as if it was ejected by a repulsive force, and the seawater rolled outwards at the position where the two were. The red-haired conqueror was like a substance, and when Chin-Yang looked at him, he could feel an unshakable will. This will can even affect the physical world. As expected of a master of hockey, Chin-Yang chuckled. 837 Conqueror Hockey Awakeners have seen, at least 7 or 8 people, but none of them can reach your level. The same as Conqueror, there is also a gap between them. Empress, Doflamingo, Whitebeard, Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, etc. These people have Conqueror. In comparison, the red-haired hockey is stronger and much stronger. In addition, his armament is also extremely powerful. Even the Thunder Roar cannon can offset part of the damage, which is evident. Aizen. Anger flashed in the redhead's eyes. He could feel that the counter wasn't serious about fighting him at all. But if you want to challenge me, that's 100 years too early. Chin-Yang spoke calmly, and after the sword was blocked, he immediately stretched out his left hand. There are lightning flashes in the palm, and the golden electric lights converge, turning into a thunder cannon. Seeing this move again, the red-haired complexion changed slightly. He did not dare to take the second shot, and immediately chose to retreat. In a flash, he had already opened a distance of dozens of meters, and then the whole person sank into the sea and disappeared. Chin-Yang was stunned, dispersed the ghost path, and then stood on the sea. "Are you afraid of me? Why do you want to distance yourself? This is just delaying time, it is meaningless." As soon as he finished speaking, a slash suddenly appeared under the sea. Whoosh! The sea was torn apart, and the silver sword energy visible to the naked eye rushed out from Chin-Yang's feet. Seeing this, Chin-Yang couldn't help but chuckle, as this weak attack hitting flies. Saying that, Chin-Yang suddenly stretched out his left palm and grabbed the slash directly. This slash has Haki-chan Rao, and the destructive power is amazing. However, the moment he touched Chin-Yang's left hand, he could no longer move an inch. Boom! This sword energy from under the sea was caught by force. What kind of defense is this? Under the sea, the hidden red hair couldn't help but change color. On the surface of his skin, there is a special layer of material. Chin-Yang flicked his left hand and grabbed the slash to the sky. Boom! The explosion sounded. Chin-Yang opened his mouth and said, "Don't struggle, a combat power like yours is equivalent to a dominant cadre like me." The red hair came out, and half of the body floated on the sea. "Let me tell you directly, I can kill all the 3 major cadres by myself." Chin-Yang said nonsense in a serious manner. "If you want to play against me on an equal footing, you are still far behind. Besides, even if you win the battle, what about me? Above me, there is Emperor Qin." Emperor Qin, the red-haired complexion was ugly. After a short fight, he also already understood that the strength of the person in front of him surpassed the 4 emperors' level. One-on-one, he was not an opponent. You haven't seen Emperor Qin, and you will understand when you see it one day. Chin-Yang's eyes were cold. His power has surpassed your imagination. It can be said that he alone can make the dream kills all. This is not a lie. Emperor Qin is the main body. It is not easy to kill the rest of the transformation. It is a matter of thought. However, the red hair did not know the key, and was frightened by these words and looked sluggish. A master as strong as Lan Ran disdains lying. Since he said so, then the Captain Qin Emperor must be a terrifying character. Thinking of this, the red-haired face has become extremely ugly. He found that he was powerless to stop the dream, let alone Emperor Qin. He couldn't even beat the deputy captain, and even the master cadre. He was not necessarily an opponent. At least Sea Dragon, the master of the ocean, is not something he can deal with now. So, you still want to stop me from waiting? Qin Yang said again. Go back. For the sake of me waiting for a favor, I will forgive your offense this time. Hearing this, the redhead was stunned, and then he laughed proudly. Forgiveness. Aizen, I don't have any great ideals. Becoming a pirate also inherits Captain Roger's will. You laugh at me, tease me, I can handle it with Isho, but if you take action against my crew, I bet my head on it, and I must ask you for an explanation. Quote. I'm so disappointed, redhead. Qin Yang raised the Zanpakuto upside down. You didn't use your sword to stop me from waiting, you were just swept away by anger. Since that's the case, I'll let you wake up and take a good look at the reality of this world mirror flower water moon. The sound of the sword sounded, and the sword body emitted blue light, like a flower in a mirror and a moon in the water. The red hair stared at all the changes, and the moment he saw the blue light, he realized that the world was completely different. In front of his field of vision, a man appeared, wearing a captain's hat and a red cape. The moment he saw this person, the red-haired expression was dull, and he said in a daze, Captain Roger. Roger, full name Gul D. Roger, is the only man who has conquered the entire course of the Great Route. By marinas, the most dangerous force in the world, he knows the specific whereabouts of all ancient weapons. Its strength surpasses the four emperors, and it is the pinnacle of the previous era to listen to all things. Captain Roger. Qin Yang smiled. No, Captain Roger, as you know, didn't exist from the beginning. What? Red stared blankly, whether it was the naked eye or hockey, in the perception, the person in front was indeed Roger. The voice is also the same, the demeanor is also, there is no difference, it is exactly the same as the memory. Aizen, suddenly, the redhead gritted his teeth and said, illusion. No, not illusion, Captain Roger, who are you? Too ugly, redhead. Qin Yang smiled and said, there is another one, you don't need to hide, after watching the play for so long, haven't you shown up yet? The voice came out, but there was no response. The red-haired gaze condensed, and observation hockey immediately radiated out, and in an instant, the entire sea area was under his perception. Who? He whispered. At this moment, above the sky, there was a burst of laughter. Ha ha ha, have you been found? The wind and clouds rolled, and a figure gradually emerged. I really miss it, I can actually see this face. The visitor looked at Qin Yang, to be precise, at Gul D. Roger. How did you find me? The man said again, I'm very good at hiding. It's simple. Qin Yang stood with his hands behind his back, looked up, and said, I knew your existence from the beginning, the reason why I didn't expose you was just to wait for you to relax your vigilance. Now, your five senses are under my control. Monkey D. Dragon. Chapter 0270-20, Buy or Not. Monkey D. Long. D. Family, the son of Monkey D. Garp. However, this person is not Marine, but the leader of the Revolutionary Army tilde. The so-called Revolutionary Army is an armed force that advocates the overthrow of the world government. Its leader is recognized by the world government as the most vicious criminal in the world. Of course, that was in the past, and now this title has fallen on Emperor Qin's head. At this moment, Monkey D. Long was floating in the air. He was wearing a dark green coat and had a red square tattoo on his left face. Since he appeared, he has been staring at Qin Yang. It's a great honor for the famous Dream co-captain to know me. Famous. Before today, the ghost knew who the Dream vice-captain was. The famous one is Dream. Redhead couldn't help but sigh. Because of the existence of a third party, the scene suddenly fell into a stalemate. Seeing that no one said anything, Monkey D. Long spoke again and said, what kind of ability do you have? You can actually turn into Roger. Well, let me guess, from what you just said, you're inferring from the phrase, the five senses are under my control, is it the power that is activated through the deception of the five senses? He. Qin Yang did not explain, but chuckled lightly. a careerist like you suddenly appeared here for the design drawings of Hades. Before, Qin Yang had no contact with the Revolutionary Army, but now Monkey D. Long is obviously coming for him, and the purpose is self-evident. There is a part of the reason. Long's voice was deep and magnetic. Ancient weapons are indeed powerful weapons, but even if I get the blueprints, it is meaningless. My real purpose is to find you. Pause, he added. I have a dream. I want to overthrow the world government, change the rules of the world, and build a new world of harmony, freedom and equality, full of dreams. Hearing this, Qin Yang said calmly, what's the point of coming here to talk to me about this if you don't fulfill your dreams? Aizen, our revolutionary army needs the power of your dreams. Long's eyes flickered with strange eyes, which was a very strong belief. I have been following you since the first time your shadow demon assassinated Tenryubito. You, this group of people, all powerful and free to do whatever they want, are pirates among pirates. But unlike ordinary pirates, you are not a pure evil party, and your long-term actions have a fundamental purpose. Devil fruit. Anyone who has studied fantasy knows that the pursuit of devil fruit by these murderers is terrifying. As long as there are devil fruits, there is nothing they dare not do. Tenryubito dared to kill, the Holy Land felt free to infiltrate, the four emperors dared to provoke and threaten casually, and as for Marine, they had no scruples about them. So, we can cooperate. Long finally said, you need the devil fruit, we need to overthrow the world government, and both will benefit. After hearing these words, Qin Yang was speechless for a while. I will not accept the cooperation. Why? Long was not in a hurry, but asked calmly. Because of equivalence. You Revolutionary Army, do not have the equivalent status of my dreams. Qin Yang shook his head and said, however, cooperation will not work, but I can accept employment. The price is the devil fruit, and the reward required varies according to the difficulty of the task. If you want to kill Tenryubito, 1 fruit per head, you give me 100, and I can go to the Holy Land and kill Tenryubito, how about that? Ha 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 ha. Long laughed and said, as expected of a dream, I have no doubts about your abilities. Just killing Tenryubito has no real meaning. The power of the world rests in the hands of the Gorosei, 5 elders. Gorosei, 5 elders. Qin Yang, Isho, flex his fingers. Immediately, a wisp of black smoke floated out, and the next moment, it condensed into a dark figure. Shadow Demon. Long raised his eyebrows and stared, secretly said in his heart. Sure enough, as the intelligence said, it is not a human being, but it is not a fruit person, is it a special race? The Shadow Demon ignored him at all, stretched out his hand to tear apart the space, and grabbed an old man from the shadow world. The old man was bound by his whole body, only his head could move. The moment he saw this person, the color of the dragon and the red hair changed. Gorosei, 5 elders. No wonder they weren't shocked. Gorosei, 5 elders, living in holy places all year round, sitting on the 5 positions of the highest power in the world, are 5 people standing at the top. However, one of the Gorosei, 5 elders, trapped like a zongzi, is clearly a prisoner. The redhead took a deep breath and said, You can even catch Gorosei, 5 elders. What's so difficult about this? Qin Yang said, it was Emperor Qin who shot, he just caught it. He said that, he looked at the dragon and asked, I've only caught him so that the government can hand over the fruit. Monkey D. Long, are you interested in buying it? This old man, 20 pieces of fruit, I'll sell it to you. Quote. Hearing this, the old man Jian was furious, and his blood surged. This is the first time in his life that he has suffered such insults, and the damn dream actually sold him as a slave. Above the sky, the dragon fell into a state of daze. He thought that he had overestimated fantasy enough, but he didn't expect that reality would slap him. Dream shot, even Gorosei, 5 elders can catch, dare to catch. And judging from the reactions of Marine and the world government, it seems that the war has not been torn apart. Thinking of this, Long suddenly said with understanding, so it's no wonder that the previous government issued a black reward order to your Emperor Qin, with a reward of up to 3 billion. 3 billion, currently the world's highest reward. Even surpassed Roger's bounty that year. How about it, buy it or not? Qin was too lazy to argue with him. Hearing this, Long fell into deep thought, and after more than 3 minutes, he suddenly laughed. I bought it. He laughed twice. It's the right time. I like you very much. Saying that, he swiped out a white card from his pocket. Whoosh. Qin took it easily. Vivre card. It will guide you to a place. Long said thoughtfully. You come to that place and we'll trade with you when the time comes. I like straightforward buyers. Qin haha isho, glanced at the old man Ngn. Old man, don't blame me, it's because your government is too slow to respond and refuses to hand over the fruits, so I have to find another one for you. Buyer. In this regard, the old man Ngn looked at each other with murderous intent. If eyes can kill, Qin is already dead. Only to hear the dragon continue to say, Dream, I'll wait for you there. At that time, there is another thing, we will prepare the reward. See you again. After speaking, his figure faded, as if the breeze was blowing, and disappeared in a blink of an eye. At the end, another word came. Give my regards to your Emperor Qin for me, and look forward to meeting him in person when the time comes. The voices fade, and the people disappear. The red hair on the side fell into a sluggishness. These two lunatics actually bought and sold a gorose, 5 elders for the price of 20 fruits. Surely a lunatic. Chapter 0271-Shichibukai who were on the move. The third update. I went to the dentist last night, came back to take some medicine, and fell asleep. I woke up in the morning with pain. Surely a lunatic. The redhead couldn't help shaking his head and sighed. Dignified gorose, 5 elders, in the hands of the dream, were bought and sold like slaves. And Monkey D. Long really dared to buy it, although I don't know what the other party's purpose is, but obviously intends to use the gorose, 5 elders to do something. Qin watched the other party go away, then chuckled lightly and asked the shadow demon to bring the old man Jian back to the shadow space. Well, no one's bothering you now. He looked at the red hair and said, back to the previous topic, are you still stopping me from waiting? No, it can't be done anymore. The redhead climbed up on the driftwood, twisted the wet sleeves, and said, words can't stop you, and my strength can't stop you. Since this is the case, don't think about it. Hide. The consequences of a world war, please be prepared. His voice was low and he stared at Qin seriously. I'm not afraid to wait. Qin, Vivi Isho, stepped into the air step by step and walked in the direction of the giant whale. This offense, I'll just pretend it didn't happen, redhead, there won't be a second time. After speaking, he dodged and disappeared quickly. Watching Qin go away, the red-haired complexion gradually became solemn. In the recent period, many low-key pirate groups have started frequent activities, and they seem to be collecting devil fruits to prepare for the auction. This phenomenon will be more frequent in the future. The red hair murmured softly, the possibility of forming an alliance secretly is very high. It seems that I have to go to Whitebeard. Shaking his head, he jumped towards his pirate ship. There are only four emperor pirates in the New World. Of course, there are 3 emperors and 1 emperor, and the 4 top forces, but under this, there are many secondary pirates hidden in the vast sea. A silver medalist who lost to Roger that year, which is even more overwhelming. Such as Golden Lion, Hag and so on. Attracted by ancient weapons, for a period of time in the future, I am afraid that there will be many pirates from the past, one after another. Qin returned to the back of the huge whale, and the whale continued to sail towards the Kaido Sea area. Lidget opened her mouth to say something, but the ghostly way blocked her speech ability. Shut up. Qin glanced at her and said, I know what you want to say, that person was Monkey D. Long just now. Leader of the Revolutionary Army. Ligiet Vivi was shocked, because the distance was too far, and she could barely see a few black spots. As for what it looked like, it was unknown what kind of conversation these people had. == Is it because of Hades, design drawings? Cut. Dot. Ligiette thought to herself, a blueprint can even attract the Revolutionary Army. No, he is not the last one. I am afraid there will be many hidden pirates. No wonder this guy wants to take me with him. At this moment, Ligiette suddenly reacted. The reason why Qin Yang brought her by his side was to show others, to let them know that the cadre of the Big Mom pirates was arrested by him. If someone wants to block the road, they must consider the fate of the Big Mom pirates. Is it to avoid trouble? Ligiette guessed so. She was very helpless. She was actually used as a mosquito incense. Not to mention the inner thoughts of the prisoner under the steps, the two whales slowly walked towards the Kaido Sea area. Perhaps it was the mosquito-repellent incense that played a role, and I did not encounter any obstacles on this journey. 3 days later, in the first half of the Great Route, on a certain sea area, an ordinary merchant ship sailed, aiming at the capital of Seven Waters. In the captain's room of the merchant ship, the King Shichibukai, the Big Mark, was reading the newspaper leisurely, with Erlang's legs crossed. At this moment, the door was pushed open, and a pirate dressed as an ordinary sailor smiled. "Captain, Marine's phone." Saying that, he handed out a phone bug. Big Mark frowned and connected unhappily. The voice of a vice admiral came from the opposite side. "I am vice admiral of the headquarters, and I will inform you about the relevant information now. A few days ago, the deputy captain of the Dream left Sky Island and appeared in the New World. At the same time, the defense of Sky Island was empty, except for demons. Apart from Sun Nicole Robin, there is probably only the Master of the Sea, and this is your chance." I see. Big Mark felt unhappy. Once he doesn't want to do this kind of work, the design drawings of ancient weapons are really tempting. "Do it as soon as possible, or it will change soon," Vice Admiral urged. "I don't need you to teach me." After speaking, Big Mark hung up directly. After hanging up the phone, he thought for a while, then gritted his teeth and said, "Let the Big Polo come to see him. This time we need his strength." Big Polo. The pirate was taken aback. That lunatic, who can't tell the difference between the enemy and me, is still being held in custody. "Captain, are you serious?" "I'll go as I say." Big Mark waved his hand and drank his subordinate's back. As soon as he left, he lifted Erlang's legs again and continued to read the newspaper. Suddenly, he saw an interesting message, and immediately Isho reached out and grabbed the text on the paper. In an instant, a shot of black text was pulled away, as if it had been stolen, and disappeared from the newspaper. At the same time, the capital of Seven Waters. Because there is a sky island suspended above the head, although the sky island is supported by the sea dragon, the people on the island are a little trembling, for fear that the island will fall that day. Therefore, recently, the capital of Seven Waters seems to be a lot lonely. Even in the usual lively tavern, there are only 2 people sitting alone today. The 2 men were tall and strange in appearance. One of them was wearing a hood, with only 2 palms sticking out from the cuffs. The other, wearing a cloak, with a going barb in his left hand and a cigar in his mouth, let out bursts of low laughs. "I didn't expect you to contact me. Marine suddenly removed your Shichibukai title, and you've disappeared since then." He. Gecko Moria grinned, his eyes fierce. "Damn Dream, he didn't even look back to save me in the first place. Fortunately I have more intentions, otherwise Marine will catch me." "It makes one wonder, what happened then?" Crocodile asked. "Let's not talk about this. This time I asked you to meet here for the sake of the above." Gecko Moria pointed to the top of his head. 1.0. Crocodile smiled suddenly. "A blueprint." "That's right. Let's join forces to get the blueprint first, and then find a way to build the battleship, or maybe the hidden place of the battleship will be recorded on the blueprint. Gecko Moria is high in nature. With it, we can kill the 4 emperors, kill Marine, and dominate the world." "No, I want to kill Whitebeard." Crocodile chuckled. "Really? What a coincidence, I want to kill Kaido." Gecko Moria's eyes flashed. Do you want to do it? This will anger the dream, and the consequences of failure are very serious. Afraid of this and that, who will come back to be a pirate? The two simply communicated and agreed to join forces at once. And this is just a combination. In other places, there are many unknown beings that are joining forces with each other to form one short-lived alliance after another. Everyone's goal is the blueprint of Hades. Chapter 0272 I'm just a gatekeeper. First update. In the past few days, I have been filling my teeth again, and it is the third subject test, so the update is very unstable. I am really sorry, but the test has been completed, and the teeth have not been filled, but it does not affect the normal update _ close black lens bracket. Island in the sky. The sea dragon is holding the island. For the past few days, he has been in this state. The dragon eyes are closed, like a sculpture, motionless. Suddenly, above the island, a figure jumped down and landed on the top of the sea dragon. Lord Halong, you called me. Robin lightly landed on the dragon's head and spoke in awe. The body of the sea dragon is 10,000 meters, and the dragon head is comparable to the land. Even if it floats in the air, it is like Mount High. You pay attention these days. Halong opened his eyes and said in a low voice, below, there are at least 7 gangs. Their goals, don't tell me, you know what they are. Drawings. Robin Vivi was startled. Who are they? Pirates, Shichibukai. Sea Dragon said. There are 2 people in Shichibukai, Crocodile, Gecko Moria. Hearing this, Robin's face suddenly became a little dignified. She already knew what Shichibukai stood for. Each of them had outstanding strength and were legal pirates recognized by the government. And now, there are 2 people below, seemingly aiming at the drawing. Robin couldn't help but be a little nervous. You must know that on the island now, there are no 15 cadres, only Sea Dragon. Don't panic, Golden Lion and his flying pirates will follow your orders. It's more than enough to defend against the invasion of these people. Golden Lion. Robin nodded, but he felt that this guy was a little unreliable. But thinking that Halong is guarding here, it is a little more stable. Okay, I see, I'll get attention. If nothing else, I'll go back first. In response, Halong closed his eyes again and fell into endless silence again. Seeing this, Nicole Robin opened her mouth and wanted to ask where the blueprint was and which area to focus on defending, but she swallowed the words when she got to her lips. Obviously, she has not been recognized by the dream, so this kind of thing did not tell her. Shaking his head, Robin had no choice but to leave, whether he knew it or not. Since someone dared to make drawings, he must teach him a lesson. After joining Dream, all members of Dream set an example to tell her that Dream's majesty should not be offended. Who hope there won't be a problem. With a light breath, Robin went to work. She first notified the 8 great pirates and arranged for the night patrol mission, and then talked to Golden Lion and asked him to guard the entrance. Everything is ready, and night falls unnoticed. There are 8 pirate groups with 8 patrols, located in 8 directions of the stronghold, and they will patrol all night. Inside the stronghold, in the main body of the building, at various key positions, there are also guards who are closer to the center, and the guards are more tightly guarded. At 12 o'clock in the middle of the night, a wisp of sand and dust flew up from below on the south side of the floating sky island. Because of the occlusion of the night, it is difficult for the naked eye to see. This repeated sand and dust flew into the floating sky island, and finally slowly condensed, starting from the legs, and turned into a human shape little by little. It was a man in a cloak and a cigar in his mouth. Ha ha ha, do you think floating in the sky can prevent invasions? He opened his mouth slightly mockingly, looking around. At the same time, beside him, a pitch-black bat flew over. Bat was fat, and when it flew to Crocodile's side, it gradually elongated its body and pulled it into a silhouette little by little. The figure was incomparably dark, and at the moment when the change was completed, starting from the top of its head, it was dyed a little bit with color. He Shadow Mage. Gecko Moria laughed strangely. I thought the invasion would be a little difficult, but I didn't expect it to be so easy. It seems that the defense of this floating sky island is very weak, except for the sea dragon under his feet. The two looked at each other in silence. Sea dragon is 10,000 meters tall. When he was in the capital of Seven Waters, he didn't feel much, but after flying to the floating sky island, he suddenly realized that this thing is really too big. I am afraid that a single claw will be enough to smash an island into pieces. Don't alarm him, Crocodile said solemnly. Once he is alarmed, we are ready to run. Dominant Cadres, that is the four emperors, head to head, 2-on-1 is courting death, and there is no chance of winning. Go, sneak in first, then catch Nicole Robin and ask the whereabouts of the blueprints. The two immediately began to act. They are very careful, condensing their own breath to the extreme. One is a person with the ability to rust fruit, and after fluidization, it is extremely difficult to distinguish. The other is the shadow fruit. Although it is not as good as the shadow demon when sneaking into this kind of thing, it is not bad. The two quietly approached the central gate of the island, and all patrols were avoided. When they reached the entrance of the central gate, the two stopped a little and hid their bodies under the white snow. The gate is a wooden frame, standing in the snow, and behind it is a magnificent mansion with bright lights. Very rudimentary defense, Gecko Moria whispered. I met at least 3 patrols, each with 6 people, and they wanted to find us 10 years earlier. However, after entering from here, I am afraid that it's more troublesome. You're going to cause a commotion, and I'm going to sneak in and find Nicole Robin. Crocodile suggested. Or, your shadow fruit can make zombies. That needs a body. Moria shook her head. Forget it, we'll move separately. I'm on the left, you're on the right. If anyone is exposed, remember to lead them away. Yes. Crocodile smiled, admitting that she would never be exposed. Then let's act. Immediately, the two sneaked into the gate from under the snow. However, at this moment, the entire snowfield trembled. It seems that all the snow has come to life, like living things, twisting quickly and condensing into a snow lion. The lion was huge, reaching a height of 100 meters. The moment it appeared, it suddenly raised its paws and slapped the two under the snow fiercely. What? Gecko Moria's expression changed. There are experts. With a light drink, a shadow suddenly emerged from the snow, turned into a dark 377 spear, and headed towards the paw of the snow lion. Boom! The two collided, and the snow lion's right paw was immediately smashed away. However, the scattered snowflakes flew in the air, condensing dozens or hundreds of arrows of white snow, and then poured down like clouds. Dong 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 dong. In an instant, the location of the two was beaten into a hornet's nest. Who is it? Crocodile didn't bother to hide, he dodged to the right with fluidity, his eyes searching. Finally, he looked up and saw a big bald head flying in the sky above the sky, looking at them flatly. Golden Lion. Crocodile was stunned. You're not dead yet. Caught by the dream, they didn't kill you. He had seen Golden Lion more than 10 years ago, and naturally he would not admit his mistake. Some time ago, the Golden Lion and the fantasy battle, although no one knew the process, but the result was obvious, the Golden Lion lost. I just didn't expect that the Golden Lion was not killed, but shot at such a time. What do you mean? Gecko Morley slapped the snow off his body angrily. Golden Lion, what do you want to do? Hearing this, Golden Lion touched his head, his expression still calm. To be precise, it was not peace, but a lot of old age and vicissitudes. It's a pity, you two, I'm just a gatekeeper now, he said indifferently, the Golden Lion you know is dead. What? Crocodile frowned and sneered. You bastard actually acting as a watchdog for Dream. Chapter 0273_surrender. Second update. I can't take it anymore. The third update, I'll make it up tomorrow morning. You bastard actually acting as a watchdog for Dream. Crocodile taunted, and at the same time very annoyed. If there was no Golden Lion to intervene, Their infiltration operation was very smooth, but unfortunately it has been exposed now. It is estimated that it will not be long before the dreamer will appear. While angry, he also felt very strange. With the character of Golden Lion, he would rather die than submit, let alone be a watchdog. And after hearing his words, Golden Lion just weakly issue, the reason, of course, others can't imagine. His life is now in the hands of the dream, and if the second captain has a thought, he will die. After losing his ambition to fight for hegemony, of course Golden Lion still wanted to live, especially when he wanted to die as an extravagant hope. No, to be precise, he didn't want to live, but to stop falling into that state of obliteration of the five senses, which was much more uncomfortable than death. Shaking his head, Golden Lion stood in the air, looked at the two people below, and said, "You are here for the blueprint. I advise you to give up, even if you can get it. What if you are chased by the dream? You don't know at all how terrifying they are. If it is the master cadre who shoots, then they can die happily. If it is the deputy captain, or even the captain, you don't even have the chance to commit suicide. HMPH, what a bereaved dog, I didn't expect you to fall too. Crocodile haha issue, sarcastically undisguised, get out of the way. Hee crocodile, you hold him, I'll punch in from the front. Gecko Moria sneered twice, you seem to know each other, so just go fight, I'll go first. They have been exposed, so the time is tight, and the blueprint must be obtained in a very short time, otherwise, once the sea dragon shoots, it will not be easy to run. Thinking of this, his shadow gradually separated from the snow, scattered into countless bats, and headed towards the big house behind the wooden frame. Two mere thieves, I really don't exist. Golden Lion couldn't help laughing and kicked his right foot suddenly. Whoosh! Sword chi shot out, and under Gecko, the sword chi expanded rapidly, and instantly turned into a length of tens of meters. It was as if the autumn wind swept away the leaves and scattered all the bats in one breath. However, these scattered bats turned into droplets of black matter again, and after falling to the snow, they condensed into the form of bats again. Don't struggle, you have time to run now. Seeing this, Golden Lion lowered his height and slapped his palm on the snow, Lion Mighty Earth Scroll. In an instant, the snow rioted, countless snowflakes fluttered, and a city wall seemed to rise above the ground. The city wall consists of 6 huge lion heads, which completely protect the large house at the rear. The next moment, the 6 lion heads opened their mouths and spewed out a blizzard that blew all the bats away. Seeing this scene, Gecko Moria's mouth twitched, and he said angrily, "Bastard, old immortal guy, he has become a dream watchdog, and he still works so hard." Desert Sword. Just then, Crocodile suddenly swung a blow. A stream of sand was thrown out of his body, and after the stream of sand flew out, it immediately turned into 3 large swords, and they all slashed towards the Snow Lion city wall. Shasha fruit, in Logia, can only be regarded as a medium grade. Golden Lion hugged Shang with both hands, and seemed not in a hurry. Unfortunately, you are completely restrained in the ice and snow climate. He didn't plan to kill the other side in one breath. Anyway, the task was to let him guard the gate, as long as no one was allowed in. Not to mention the stalemate here, on the other side of the island. A patrol fell into the snow, and beside them, an ugly-looking pirate was standing aside. Moaned in the face of one of the patrol members, "I'm so sorry, little brother, I want to borrow your face." He grinned at Isho, reached out and touched it, and saw that the patrolman's facial features suddenly disappeared. Eyes, nose, mouth, eyebrows, ears, body and hairstyle are all gone, as if stolen. The whole head, bare, with nothing, looks terrifying. But Big Mark was not surprised at all. After erasing the face of the other party, he touched himself with his left hand. Suddenly, his appearance changed, and he completely changed into that person's appearance. The sound is not good to steal, forget it. Just try it like this, can you sneak in? Big Mark touched his chin, then turned his eyes to a dog. This is a very ferocious looking dog, huge in size, comparable to a horse. It's just the dog's mouth. The quilt is covered with a lock, the chain is around the neck, and the end of the chain is pinched in Big Mark's hand. Big Polo, smell it with your nose, where is the blueprint of Hades? Wong. The dog known as Big Poro gave Big Mark a fierce look. Speak human words. Big Mark was furious, and slapped him down with a slap. I let you out because I asked you to do things for me. After finishing this ticket, I'll find you a bitch. You are courting death. Big Poro's throat made a threatening sound, but he said, it was all your fault at the beginning. If it wasn't for you, I would have become what I am now. It's none of my business. Big Mark slapped him again. Work hard, there is always a way to change back. Besides, it's okay if you can't change back. Your zone, so just treat it as if you were in a permanent state of awakening. Humph. With a cold snort, the big dog looked at each other viciously. If possible, the first person he would kill would be this bastard. However, this is not limited, he is bound by the other party and has no chance at all. Thinking of this, he moved his dog's nose and said, a few masters have fought. I also asked about the rest of the intruders. It seems that the drawings of Hades are very tempting. Where is Nicole Robin ______? Follow me. One person and one dog immediately began to run wild. At the same time as they moved, under the floating sky island, Sea Dragon suddenly opened his eyes. So that's it, Paramesha's secret fruit, a certain form of Zone's dog fruit. However, after awakening, it can't change back. Why is this? He thought about it for a while, but couldn't figure it out for a while. There are 4 groups of intruders, Shichibukai's group, Damark's group, and the other 2 groups. That's right, let's make a fuss first, wait for all of them to come out, and breathe a sigh of relief. Gone. Thinking of this, he closed his eyes again and fell into silence again, like a sculpture. At the same time, Kaido Sea Area, Beastmaster Island, this is one of the strongholds of the Kaido pirates. This place is very big, and there are a large number of violent creatures on the island, each of which is extremely aggressive. Generally, pirates don't occupy it, and whether they can survive here is a problem. In the middle of the night on this day, a huge whale approached the island, and from the whale's back, a man dressed in white feather woven slowly stepped into the air. Chin Yang's feet were a few centimeters away from the sea, and he walked to the Beastmaster Island step by step. With each step, Chin Yang's aura increased by 1 point, and a huge spiritual pressure enveloped the entire island. It was probably the instinct of the creatures. At this moment, all the rushing creatures on the island were all crawling on the ground. Come on. In the center of the island, in an ancient megalithic building, the locust plague, one of the 3 plagues, suddenly opened his eyes. With such a strong spirit, it may not be the chief cadre who came. He grinned Isho and looked at Jack Drought. The trouble you caused. It may be the deputy captain or the Chin Emperor. Shit. The Drought was unrestrained, and he snorted coldly. If it were Emperor Chin, I think it would be better to surrender. Chapter 0274 _ Plague of Locusts. Open black lens bracket make up for yesterday's 3rd update _ close black lens bracket. If it were Emperor Chin, we would simply surrender. Drought Jack snorted coldly. If it was Emperor Chin, they would have no chance of winning, and there was no need to fight. Hearing this, the Plague of Locusts shook his head. You are afraid of being beaten. In this case, you should stay and I will go and see the situation. As he said that, he stood up, his back arched, his skin was dyed golden yellow, his legs were stretched, his palms were on the ground, and a pair of wings were spread out on his back. It was a locust comparable to the size of a human. I'll collect the corpse for you. Drought Jack said seriously. You are really frightened. The locust plague pouted, then fluttered its wings and flew away quickly. Its flight speed is extremely fast, and it is one of the 5 recognized flight systems in the world. While flying towards the port, the plague of locusts spit out eggs one after another. These eggs fell to the ground and shattered immediately, and small locusts emerged from them. These locusts were numerous, and as soon as Luffy went, they gathered in 100,000 in a short period of time. It is densely packed, covering the sky and covering the earth, and wherever it passes, it is like a wild dog gnawing, and no grass grows. At the same time, Chinyang set foot on the land of Beastmaster Island. He raised his eyebrows and looked into the distance, as if he had passed through the jungle and saw a patch of locusts. The locust plague, one of the 3 plagues, he whispered. As soon as the voice fell, a huge locust figure suddenly descended, followed by a swarm of insects flying in the sky. And with their appearance, the dense forest behind 400, after standing still for 3 seconds, turned into powder and disappeared, as if they were eaten clean in an instant. Which one are you from the dream? Locust Calamity uttered and asked directly. Deputy Captain. Chinyang stood with his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Let Kaido come over and see me." "I'm really sorry, Captain Kaido is not on the island." Locust grinned and said, "He told us to wait for you here." After speaking, he let out a cry, and then, 4 groups of insects flew in front of Chinyang, and dropped the 4 devil fruits. "This is the promised apology," the locust plague said again. Seeing this, Chinyang couldn't help but stun Vivi. He thought it would take some effort, but he didn't expect that this group of people were really smart, so they handed over the fruit directly. "He, I appreciate your shrewdness," Chinyang said with a light smile. "I plan to teach you a lesson. Since you are so knowledgeable, I'll let go of what happened last time." "No," the locust plague snorted. "Deputy Captain, my hands are itchy now, and I have to ask you for advice." Chinyang waved his hand and shot out a black gas, which condensed into a shadow demon. As soon as it appears, the shadow demon will raise thick black smoke and collect 4 fruits into the shadow world. Doing this, he looked up and looked at the locust plague and said, "I advise you not to seek death. I want to fight with the deputy captain, at least pull out your entire Kaido pirate group." 3 major disasters, the strength is infinitely close to the admiral level, but even if it is the admiral level, facing the dreamy deputy captain, it is basically a level of combat power. The locust plague is also very clear in his heart, but he doesn't think he can win. "Don't gossip, I've heard of you for a long time." The locust plague grinned and started immediately. Immediately, the overwhelming locusts, like a big net, all grabbed towards Chinyang. "This really gives me a problem. You guys are so smart. I'm not good at killing people. Showing mercy is also a very difficult thing." Chinyang shook his head and put his right hand on the hilt of the knife at his waist. The next moment, the figure disappeared. So fast. The locust plague froze in his heart. With his worm-type, compound eyes, he could not see the specific movements clearly, but could only vaguely sense them, which was probably a high-speed moving pace. In the dark night, a white sword light flashed, and the sword energy penetrated the swarm. The next moment, Chinyang had already appeared in front of the plague of locusts, and behind him, 100,000 locusts were killed in half by a single sword. "What?" The pupils of the locust plague shrank, full of disbelief. "His zone is quite special. It is quite unique among insects. It can reproduce swarms by laying eggs. Each locust, although not worth mentioning, is enough to destroy a country after a number of trips. However, half of the 100,000 insect plagues were instantly killed and injured." Plague of locusts suddenly dripped with cold sweat. "Damn it. I didn't even see what happened." Chinyang's face was calm, and he said, "Go back and let Kaido come to see you." "It's a pity Captain Kaido is not here." The momentum before the locust plague disappeared, and he seemed a lot more cautious. "Looks like you don't want to step back yet. That's okay, just keep a few arms and roll away." As soon as the voice fell, the sword light flashed. The locust plague was horrified, only to feel that something was suddenly missing from his right arm. He quickly retreated, and kept retreating for hundreds of meters. Only then did he realize that above the sky, a forelimb was flying and falling elsewhere. "It hurts. You bastard." Locust's face turned ashen, and a large amount of blood spurted out of the wound, Damn it. Within 10 meters, his sword speed far exceeds my reaction speed. Knowing that the other party is going to attack, and also realizing how to dodge it, it's just too late to dodge it. There is no such thing as a simple difference in strength. Qin Yang threw a knife and flung the blood on the blade. I wanted to chop off your wings too, but I didn't expect you to be able to hide. Captain Kaido is really not here. The locust plague gritted his teeth and said, the Kaido pirates have gone out to sea to find the devil fruit. Drought and I are here, waiting for you to come to your door, in order to give you these 4 fruits. Hearing this, Qin Yang chuckled. I said earlier, it was to prepare for the auction. I didn't expect that your Kaido pirates would also be interested in the drawings of Hades. Earlier, Lao Su said Kaido was gone. The plague of locusts was annoyed, but did not dare to attack. At first, he wanted to try the strength of Vice Captain Dream, but when he met, he was crushed, and it was not necessary at all. These murderers are more terrifying than each other. Ordinary members are like shadow demons, which are already weird enough, but they are not good at fighting, so they don't need to be too vigilant. But at the cadre level, it began to be more troublesome, such as the 9-tailed demon fox, whose strength was comparable to Admiral. As for the dominant cadres, they are all 4 emperors. I just didn't expect that the deputy captain on it was much more terrifying. Even the deputy captain had this level. What kind of monster is Emperor Qin? No wonder that the Big Mom pirates were destroyed overnight, and it's no wonder that Captain Kaido has never dared to confront Dream directly. The locust plague felt a burst of fire in his heart. When someone called the door, he had to give him an apology, and even had an arm beheaded. The 4 emperors pirates seems to have become a past tense, and the future era seems to be a new era where 1 emperor dominates. Damn, how could there be such a monster group? He rolled his eyes. 1 emperor dominates, and the world government is even more troublesome. We can't commit to the dream. Thinking of this, he forced a smile and said, Deputy Captain, Captain Kaido won't be back in a short time, please go back first. Go back. I haven't figured it out yet. The old god Qin Yang was there. The 4 fruits are the apology for Kaido's intervention in the Cake Island. Now, let's do the math. You saved the drought without authorization. Shit. The locust plague cursed in his heart. These lunatics are fucking shit. They are not satisfied with getting 4 fruits, their appetite is even bigger. Knowing this, he shouldn't have stayed on the island. Chapter 0275_Top 10 Families. 10 times a day I type very slowly, my hands are disabled, and my body is not good. I have a headache after sitting in front of the computer for a long time. I'm really unlucky, I should have stayed on the island if I knew earlier. The plague of locusts cursed in his heart. When the drought was taken away, Kaido sent someone to rescue him when he got the news. The flood was also present at the time. If he knew that it would turn into today's result, the locust plague would not take the initiative to ask for help. Wait, Vice Captain. Thinking of this, the locust plague gritted his teeth and endured the pain of losing his arm, and said solemnly, This matter, you are the first to arrest people, I just went to rescue, and I didn't hurt anyone during the process. This is true. Although he saved the drought, he didn't hurt anyone. At most, he beat Doflamingo's top cadre. But that's the Don Quixote pirates, not a dream person. In this regard, Qin Yang was too lazy to argue. Stop talking nonsense, you save people without my permission, it is a provocation. How serious is the provocation, do you know? Challenge a hammer. If I provoke, it is not saving people, but killing people. Locust plague was very hot, and I finally felt the feeling of Kaido at the beginning. When Kaido got involved in Cake Island, he was persecuted by the Archangel. However, the anger could only be held down, and the locust plague had to say, No, we don't have any extra devil fruits. Qin Yang stared at him. Under his spiritual pressure, every word of the other party could be seen through. It's not like lying, but it's also very unconvincing. Unconvinced, Qin Yang doesn't care at all, the problem is that there is no devil fruit. This, Qin Yang asked, You said just now that Kaido took his subordinates to find the devil fruit. It's for the drawings of the auction. That's right. Yes, Locust Calamity breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately this guy didn't mean to do it yet. The attraction of ancient weapons is enough to drive any force crazy. Where did he find the fruit? Chin Yang asked again. This is the key. If Kaido wants to buy the blueprint, the number of devil fruits he needs is not 1 or 2, but a dozen, dozens. Because the competitors come from forces all over the world, and these forces will cooperate with each other to form major alliances, the number of devil fruits that will appear at that time must be extremely terrifying. If Kaido wants to get enough fruits, ordinary means will definitely not work. This is what Chin Yang is curious about. Hearing this, the plague of locusts fell into silence, as if he didn't want to say it clearly. Chin Yang immediately exerted pressure, and the huge spiritual pressure shrouded the opponent. I said, don't be impulsive. The locust plague's face changed, and he said bravely, I don't know, have you heard of the 10 big families? Top 10 families. Chin Yang frowned slightly. Maybe you haven't heard of them, but you must have seen some of them. Bank the locust plague considered the tone and tried to reveal as little information as possible. For example, the 7th-ranked family, the Don Quixote family, eats both black and white, has a huge intelligence agency, and a large number of arms transactions. Indirectly there are dozens of countries that can be affected. Quote. Yin. This time, Chin Yang was a little surprised. The Don Quixote family is only ranked 7th. What's up there? Above, after hesitating for a while, seeing Chin Yang frown again, the locust plague immediately said, for another example, the 5th-ranked family, the Vinsmoke family from North Blue. They are the most cowardly family in North Blue, Marine and the world. The government is a headache for them. They can even influence Marine. Not only that, their family is also known as Germa 66 Feet, or War House, the legendary army of evil. Vinsmoke, North Blue's big family. This Chin Yang knows that this family is quite a famous, killer family. Not only that, but he also knew that Vinsmoke's family patriarch, his 3rd son, Vinsmoke Sanji, is now missing. Presumably he will be rescued by a pirate and then become a chef. What about the others? Chin Yang then asked. There is the Charlotte family who ranks 4th, and the Whitebeard family who ranks 2nd, which is the Whitebeard pirates. Locust Plague explained. The reason why the red hair is not with our Kaido pirates is because we are only a pirate group and cannot be counted as a family. Who is the number 1? Chin Yang couldn't help but be curious, but he had some guesses in his heart. The first is the D family. The family known as the enemy of God. The locust plague shook his head and said, however, nowadays, there are very few people in the D family, not to mention the size of the family, but everyone the D people are all tricky. Quote. Marine had a Jaguar D Saren, Marine Vice Admiral, but now dead. There's also Monkey D Garp, Marine Vice Admiral, Marine heroes who, at their peak, can drive Roger into a corner. In addition, Monkey D Long, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. Whitebeard pirates have a hidden ambition named Marshal D Tiki. The former One Piece king of pirates was called Gall D Roger, but Marine changed it to Gall D Roger, in order to hide the name. Even Roger's wife, also a D family, called Portgas D Rouge, is also dead. Of course, the D family is far more than these people, there are many more hidden. So that's the case, the D family. Chin Yang nodded clearly, without any surprise. Locust Plague continued. This time Captain Kaido went to find the devil fruit. In fact, he went to contact the Pycanus family, one of the 10 major families. This family is located in a powerful country in the New World. It is a royal family. The country, even the 4 emperors do not want to invade one. Quote. The Pygmies family ranked 6th, above the Don Quixote family. Of course, this ranking is based on influence, not simply that this family is much stronger than the Don Quixote pirates. There was a Tenryubito who went to that country once, because the Pygmies family had offended and threatened to destroy them, but after returning, the Tenryubito had no choice but to do nothing about it. After listening to this, Chin-young couldn't help but be more curious, that is to say, this Pichinus clan has a lot of devil fruits in their hands. No, I don't know about this. The locust plague quickly said, but they do have a special army in their hands. All of them are capable people. There are about 10 people. They are the royal guards. Are Kaido pirates. With this the family maintains a certain connection, and this time I want to find them to join forces. Quote. As for how to join forces, Chin-young can also guess without him saying it. The target must be the blueprint of Pluto, when Kaido provides force, and the other party provides fruits and the like. He. Chin-young chuckled twice. Collect the fruits well. The auction will only be based on the number of fruits. If you want drawings, you have to do your best. Saying that, Chin-young looked at the shadow demon. Seeing this, the shadow demon waved his hand and tore apart the space. The two stepped in one after another. Chin-young walked into the shadow world, and before the space gap closed, he looked back at the locust plague. Wait for yourselves, and if I wait for you to do it again, the Big Mom pirates will be your fate. Puff. The gap in the space closed, like the big mouth of a monster, disappearing all at once. The locust plague was horrified to find that he was already in a cold sweat. It's really scary. This is the deputy captain. How on earth did Emperor Qin quell these monsters? Chapter 0276-11 changes. Secondly, I saw that some people said that there are 3 major disasters, the problem of wind disasters. I can't find it. I don't know which one was mentioned specifically. I searched for a long time and couldn't find it, so I directly took the drought, locust, and flood that exist in nature itself. Close black lens bracket. Floating Sky Island, Captain's Room. Nicole Robin sat silently, listening to the reports of her men. A battle is taking place outside, especially at the gate. The Golden Lion is fighting with Gecko Moria and Crocodile, and the scene is very intense. That is to say, there are at least 4 groups of intruders. Robin frowned slightly, and his tone was not very good. There are fewer people than expected. There should be infiltrators who have not been exposed. The situation is not very good, not because of concerns about the blueprint being stolen, but because the intruders' combat power exceeds expectations, and the Golden Lion has not solved the 2 Shichibukai until now. As for the other 8 pirate groups, they are guarding everywhere. Go ask Lord Halong to take action. Robin hesitated a little. At this moment, behind her, a gap opened in the space, and 2 figures walked out one after another. Aizen-sama. Robin turned to look, and quickly greeted respectfully. I already know what's going on here. Chin-young nodded at her and said, next, leave it to the combatants to solve it. Shadow Demon. Yes. The Shadow Demon responded with a sound, and with a wave of his hand, thick black smoke was emitted. The black smoke condensed into a vortex door, and figures kept walking out of it. The first to appear was a handsome young man. As he stepped out, a strong demonic energy overflowed, and black flames continued to burn on his right palm. I'm Ibaraki Doji, back from a mission. First meeting, newcomer. Ibaraki Doji. Robin was taken aback. This was a new face. It was the first time he had seen him, but he had already heard the name Ibaraki. Since joining Dream, she has obtained a lot of information. She has kept in mind all the members who have appeared in Dream, and she did not expect to see one of them today. Ibaraki Doji, 2 stars, big monster transformation. After Ibaraki, another figure stepped out of the dark vortex gate. The man was wearing a robe with black clouds on a red background, a forehead guard on his head, and his eyes were blood-colored, and there were 3 hook jades slowly turning inside them. I'm Itachi Uchiha, a ninja. Another new face. Robin's body was shocked, and unlike Ibaraki Doji, Uchiha Itachi, she had never even heard of it. This is of course, except Marine, the outside world does not know the existence of this member. Itachi Uchiha, 2 stars, ninja. However, this did not end. Inside the dark gate behind it, black air billowed, and another figure stepped out. The man was wearing armor, a big cloak, short and medium blonde hair, and a handsome appearance. At the same time as he walked out, the man drew out the long sword from his waist, exuding a unique temperament like a knight. "I'm Arthur, the King of Knights, the Dream Cadre." Night King. Robin's eyes widened. She was familiar with this slaughterhouse and had heard many rumors. Hugh, according to rumors, by D, was killed by his sword. Night King Arthur, 3-star, heroic spirit transformation. However, the gate still did not disappear, and what appeared next was a 9-tailed fox, as if it were the incarnation of evil. Just sticking out a paw from the door is already comparable to the size of an ordinary person. "I am the 9-tailed demon fox, Julia, a cadre. Little girl, we have met." With a laugh, the voice that had not yet appeared suddenly radiated red light, and then gradually shrank into a silhouette. 9-tails in human form, golden fox eyes, and an evil appearance, catching up with a heart-pounding smile. Ninth Master. Seeing this man, Robin Vivi breathed a sigh of relief. She thought that there would be new faces again. Although she didn't know how many members Mengmeng had, she was still nervous to face so many new faces at one time. And with the appearance of the 9-tailed demon fox, the dark gate behind it also quickly disappeared. Shadow Demon instructed, "The scale of this invasion is not small. There are at least 5 Shichibukai-level powerhouses, and some are even close to the Admiral level. However, these are small problems. Be careful of one person, Big Mark, and steal the fruits. The ability person, beside him, there is a dog, to be precise, there is a zone dog fruit ability person. These two are special, remember to catch them alive." Quote. These words, of course, are not for the audience to listen to, but for Nicole Robin. "Go," Chinyong said as Lan ran, then turned to leave. Seeing this, the Shadow Demon looked at Robin and said with a chuckle, "They will listen to your arrangement for the time being. I have other tasks, so I'll leave it to you here." With that said, he will disappear. "Wait, Shadow Demon," Robin shouted quickly. "What? Don't worry, there are just a few little thieves. The 4 of them are enough to deal with it. If it's not enough, Heilong will still shoot." A 2-star Ibaraki, a 2-star Uchiha Itachi, a 3-star Night King, and a 3-star 9-tailed demon fox. This is a total of 10-star combat power. Except for the 4 Emperor Pirates, it is no problem to deal with ordinary forces. The reason why we don't need to dominate the cadre is mainly because it is inevitable that people will feel weird to use the Dominion level for everything. It's like playing chess. Although the chariots and guns are very useful, the pawns have to use them occasionally. "I see," Robin nodded. "Then I'll go first." With a laugh, the Shadow Demon directly dissipated into a mass of black mist and disappeared. Seeing this, Robin took a deep breath and said, "Ibaraki Doji, Uchiha Itachi, King of Knights and Juya, there are 4 groups of intruders now, but there should be hidden ones. First of all, please put the infiltrated ones guys find out." A small matter. This, Ibaraki Doji Vivi Isho, immediately closed his eyes. The next moment, a huge demonic energy began to radiate outward. In the perception, one after another human breath is marked. For monsters, the human breath is very easy to identify, and it is extremely convenient to detect and search. "I found it. The south side has already invaded the house. 3 people, I will deal with it." After that, Ibaraki Doji set off directly, not giving Robin time to react at all. "Then I'll deal with the 6 people in the north," Uchiha Itachi said coldly. "My word, go to the west, the invaders over there have already fought." The King of Knights followed suit. In the blink of an eye, only the 9-tailed demon fox remained. Robin opened his mouth and said dumbly, "Didn't you say listen to my arrangements?" "Little girl, you think too much. Just to give you some face, that's all." 9-tailed demon fox Haha Isho said, 9 masters go to the east gate. The golden lion over there seems to be paddling. I will teach him a lesson and teach him how to guard the gate." As he said that, the demon fox coat flashed around his body, then turned into an afterimage, and disappeared in the captain's room in an instant. Nicole Robin couldn't help laughing bitterly. I'm just a chorus. Not to mention Robin's thoughts. In a quiet room, Chin Yong sat down with his knees crossed. 9 fruits placed in front of him. 5 of them were left over from the previous looting of the Holy Land, and the remaining 4 were just obtained from the 2.0 locust plague. 9 fruits in front of him, Chin Yong hesitated a little, and then gave up his plan to ascend to a star. Upgrading a star is definitely an upgrade to Aizen, but turning a 3-star star into a 4-star star doesn't actually make much sense. But the fruit is not enough, so take a step back and open a new transformation. Thinking of this, he asked in the bottom of his heart, "Huan, can I start 3 transformations at once?" "No," Fantasy Gene replied quickly, "every time you turn on, it's actually a mutation that your gene absorbs mysterious power, and the 3 mutations happen at the same time, and your body can't bear it. That is to say, not now, but in the future." Chin Yang's eyes lit up. "Well, you can in the future, at least you have to wait for your 6-star illusory god," Fantasia said. 6-star phantom god. Far in the future, not in the short term. Shaking his head, Chin Yang had no choice but to say, "Then start the 11 transformations and consume 3 fruits. I don't know what will happen this time." Chapter 0277-Desert Emperor Azir. Chin Yang wants to open a new transformation, 11 transformations. Originally planned to open 3 in one go, just consuming 9 fruits, but since the 3 transformations could not be opened at the same time, I had to settle for the next best thing, and came little by little. He reached out and brushed the 3 fruits, and soon, the mysterious power was absorbed, and the fruits turned into powder. Chin Yang once again felt the excitement of the cells in his body, which was the beginning of a change in the essence of life. He changed from Aizen's form back to his main body. The next moment, there was a burst of dazzling golden light all over the body. The golden light radiated from a short distance, and immediately after it appeared, a pair of armor began to condense. Going armor. A head-to-toe package, similar to the Lich King. And what followed was the birth of a burst of magic power. This magic power was unique in nature. Unlike the Lich King's ice, it was quicksand. Chin Yang raised his left hand and looked down, and he could see that golden quicksand was spilling from his fingers. "Are you missing a weapon?" This thought suddenly occurred to me, and then, in Chin Yang's palm, a glowing halberd suddenly appeared. At the same time, in the back of my mind, the information about the new transformation changed. Changes. Desert Emperor Azir. Star rating, 15. Ability 1, Sun Disk. Ability 2, Sand Soldiers Embody. Ability 3, Unlocked. After understanding the ability of the new transformation, Chin Yang couldn't help but startled. This transformation, like Ibaraki Doji and the Lich King, turned out to be from a game. Chin Yang clicked his tongue, feeling a little regretful. It's not that the transformation from the game is not good, but that this transformation is not very strong, but it is not weak, and it is not in a state of high or low. Unfortunately, there is no phantom body that can travel through the world. Chin Yang shook his head helplessly. "We can only bet again after a week. The Desert Emperor's combat power is not a dominant cadre, but he can barely act as an ordinary cadre, but considering that there are too few ordinary members, fortunately, it is set as combatant ready. In the current dream, there is 1 captain, 1 vice captain, 4 chief cadres, 2 cadres, and 3 members. Counting this Desert Emperor, there are only 4 ordinary members, which is on par with the number of dominant cadres. Forget it, don't think about it for now. Since 11 changes have been made, let's study it carefully." Chin Yang stretched out his left palm, and the yellow sand flowed between his palms. Under the control of magic power, he was very handy. A 2-star Desert Emperor with 2 abilities. The first, Sun Disk, is to summon a glowing disk with magic power. The disc can cover a wide area, automatically lock on the enemy, sound an alarm, and even automatically emit magic missiles to attack. Qin Yang pondered that in the future, any dream sphere of influence could be set up with a sun disk to mark it and express to the outside world that this is the dream sphere of influence. Honestly, this ability is really useful. The second is Sand Soldier's concretization, which is easier to understand. The Desert Emperor can use sand to condense soldiers. The exact number is unknown, and it has not been tested. However, since he is the Emperor, the number of sand soldiers he can control must be huge. In the game, there are only 3 sand soldiers, but this is not a game. The real number must be multiplied by 10, multiplied by 100, or even 1000 or 10,000. It's better to find someone to test the combat power. There just happens to be an intruder. Qin Yang, Vivi Isho, got up slowly. The armor made a heavy sound, and the sound of metal collision was particularly pleasant. Holding the going halberd, Qin Yang closed his eyes and released his magic power. After a while, he sensed several battlefields near the house. At the gate, above the snow, the golden lion was still fighting 2 Shichibukai. This guy is deliberately releasing water. Since this is the case, I will personally warn you once. Thinking of this, Qin Yang immediately took action. Floating Sky Island, in the direction of the main entrance of the central mansion, the wooden frame has collapsed due to the war. Golden Lion flew into the air, folded his arms around his chest, and stared silently at the 2 below. Crocodile and Gecko Moria both breathed a little and fought head to head for half an hour. They worked together, but they couldn't help Golden Lion. The main thing is that the other party can fly, and the 2 of them can't touch others at all. The ability of the flight department is really troublesome. Moria's face was ugly. It's been delayed for so long, I think it's better to withdraw first. No matter how dull the dreamers are, they will come back at this time. Don't forget, they have summoned cadres. Ability. Any member of Dream has the ability to summon cadres from a distance. This is not a secret, as long as anyone who has been locked up with Dream knows it. Originally, the 2 of them planned to fight quickly, but they didn't expect to encounter the watchdog, Golden Lion, and they were dragged down, unable to get close to the house at all. After hearing his words, Crocodile nodded reluctantly. Get out. He is very angry. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and he is so close to Hades. Fortunately, he still has reason and knows that things can't be done. Shadow Mage. Sandstorm. Shadow burst out and attacked the Golden Lion. At the same time, above the snow, a sandstorm broke out, rolling snowflakes, forming a rare snow sandstorm. While attacking, the 2 retreated in unison, preparing to evacuate. Go. Crocodile immediately turned into quicksand and quickly headed off the island. However, at this moment, a golden streamer flashed. It was in the shape of a demon fox. On the golden demon fox coat, an evil force was condensing. Don't leave when you come. Nine-tailed demon fox sneered and slapped it with a palm-tailed beast jade. Whoosh. Small energy ball flew out immediately and intercepted in front of Crocodile. The next moment, it exploded. Boom. 633. It was as if the sun had risen, illuminating half of the sky. The huge power instantly raised a radius of 100 meters to the ground. What sandstorms, blizzards, all turned into nothingness under this blow. Cough cough. Suddenly, Crocodile's figure condensed in the distance. His face was pale, and there was blood on the corner of his mouth. What kind of power is this? It can attack fluid. He stared at the 9-tailed demon fox. The dreamer is here. Gecko Moria's expression changed. I won't play with you, I'll go first. As he spoke, he ran away without even looking back. He he he. Suddenly, a burst of laughter sounded. In front of me, the yellow sand filled the sky, as if a desert city appeared. The next moment, a voice came from the yellow sand. Come if you want, leave if you want, it's too much to take me in the eyes. The sun disk. Boom. The space oscillated, and a golden disk rose from the yellow sand. This round of disks, like a small sun, floated above the sky, illuminating the sky. I am the Desert Emperor. The sound of metal collision sounded, and in the yellow sand, a man in going armor and holding a going halberd walked out slowly. Behind the man, a group of sand soldiers appeared. 1, 5, 10, 100. In an instant, it was already an army. Chapter-261-280 I am the Sand Emperor. The first update by the way, the Desert Emperor is the Sand Emperor, not the Sand Emperor, and the only thing that does not conflict with the Emperor's name. The real conflict is the female Emperor Boya Hancock, but it is the female protagonist, which will be resolved later. Also, there was a mistake in the last chapter. The Desert Emperor's weapon should be a scepter, not a halberd. He is a mage. Close black lens bracket. The yellow sand filled the sky, and the dust was rolling. Of the Desert Emperor Azir, a group of sand soldiers appeared behind him. 1, 5, 10, 100. In the blink of an eye, its number and scale were already an army. Every sand soldier is dressed in golden armor, holding a going halberd, majestic, and a chilling meaning from an ancient country permeates the battlefield. Looking at Azir who suddenly appeared, Gecko Moria's face turned ashen. There is no need to guess, this person must be a dream member. Desert Emperor, he gritted his teeth, I've never heard of it. Judging from the name, it should be the emperor of a certain desert country, but there are many desert countries in the world. Who do you know? Compared with his expression, Crocodile's expression was much richer, pale from being attacked, and annoyed by the bad situation, which was extremely complicated. A nine-tailed demon fox, a desert emperor. Damn, I should have withdrawn earlier. He thought to himself, thinking about the escape route. Golden lion, 9 tails, sand emperor, the three formed a three-corner formation, surrounded them, and wanted to escape, unless the two worked together to open a gap, or escape. Escape, with his ability to rustle fruit, he can do it, but it takes time. He sanded the ground under his feet, burrowed directly into it, and then escaped from the bottom of the island, unless Moria helped him hold the footsteps of the three of them. Otherwise unrealistic. With that time and spare time, the three people on the opposite side caught up early. That being the case, there is only one gap left, and it must be completed within a very short period of time. Golden Lion is not easy to deal with. The nine-tailed demon fox is a cadre, and its strength is comparable to the admiral level, so. Thinking of this, Crocodile immediately called to Moria, let's do it together. The two really had a tacit understanding. After hearing Crocodile's shout, Moria immediately understood. The next moment, the two attacked Azir in unison. Shadow box. Puff puff puff. Moria let out a loud roar, and his shadow split into countless black bats, flying away, approaching Azir extremely quickly, and then wrapping him around. In an instant, the bat swarm turned into a black box, trapping the Desert Emperor firmly. Ha 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 ha, trapped in the shadow box, you can't escape. Moria laughed loudly and stepped closer, punching hard on the shadow box. _ 7. Boom. Phew. The whole box suddenly dented, as if it was about to be punched through by a punch, and flew out far away. At the same time, Crocodile waved his right hand, a quicksand shot, desert sword. G. Bing. His right arm turned into an extremely sharp sand blade, and 3 huge slashes slashed towards the black box. Whoosh. In an instant, the black box was divided into 6 parts, cut like tofu. Go. As soon as the blow was successful, the two immediately evacuated, and there was no love battle at all. As for what happened to the Desert Emperor, they didn't care at all, and they didn't think that they could kill it so easily. This is a dream, and each one's ability is very strange. However, Crocodile still felt a little subtle in his heart, because it was too quiet. Neither the Golden Lion nor the nine-tailed demon fox reacted. What's more, the nine-tailed demon fox was still standing in the distance, motionless, just looking at each other with mocking eyes. At this moment, above the sky, the huge glowing disc suddenly radiated golden light. "Shoot them!" Voice sounded, and the next moment, the light of the glowing disc was radiant, and 6 golden light bullets were ejected in one breath, all of which fell to the 2 fleeing. Oops! Crocodile's expression changed. He didn't expect it at all, and a golden light bullet hit him immediately. Boom! With a roar, half of his body was directly blown into powder, and only his legs remained standing. And Moria was even more miserable. Her fat body rolled to one side, and she narrowly escaped the fate of being hit. However, even so, the aftermath of the explosion still devoured him, and suddenly, he flew upside down and vomited blood in the air. Damn! This attack locks on the target for tracking. Moria yelled, "Shadow Mage!" In an instant, while flying upside down, he switched with the shadow in the distance. However, the trajectory of the light bullet also changed, continuing to move towards Moria. He he he. Light laughter sounded, and in the desert army, the figure of Sand Emperor Azir walked out again. Within the confines of the sun disk, there is nowhere for you to escape. He held the glowing scepter, and said imposingly, "I am the Desert Emperor, Sand Emperor Azir, and you trespassed into us without authorization. The land should be punished. My army, annihilate them." As soon as the voice fell, behind him, hundreds of sand soldiers moved in unison. This army acted in unison, like replicants, holding the halberd in their hands, and charged towards the 2 of them in unison. They are immortal. Even if they are destroyed, they can recover in a short period of time. At the same time, these soldiers are ruled by the Sand Emperor's will and can be used as an arm. Damn it! This kind of character appears for the first time. How many monsters are hidden in the dream? Crocodile's face was extremely ugly. He was Logia. He was hit by the golden light bullet of the sun disk and could recover. Seeing a group of sand soldiers attacking at this moment, he frowned. These soldiers are all made of sand. This person is Logia like me. Was trapped in a black box just now. He glanced at the wreckage in the distance, and the person who had been killed had turned into a piece of yellow sand. Damn, there can't be 2 identical fruits in the world. He is not a Shasha fruit person. Not even a person with ability. Crocodile's heart was heavy, and he had no time to think about it. Never mind the idiot Moria, I can only run 1 step ahead. Thinking of this, Crocodile squatted down suddenly and slapped the ground with his palm. Eros Samsara. Boom boom boom. The earth trembled, with Crocodile as the center, the ground cracked, the ice and snow melted, and all the water was absorbed. This is Logia's large-scale move, and the desertification of the entire ground is spreading outward at a very high speed. And Crocodile himself is sinking quickly into the sand. Ha 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 dream, I'm just here to say hello this time. I'll be back at the auction 2 months from now. In the laughter, half of his body has already dived into the ground. Banman, get an axe. Qinyang raised his eyebrows and pointed forward with the scepter in his hand. You are a person with the ability of the sand fruit, but I am a sand emperor, and the level is different. Quicksand. Whirring whirring. The gust of wind swept through, and the ground quickly deserted, forming a reverse roll, shrouding Crocodile. Chapter 0279_play alone. Second update tilde. By the way, thank you for subscribing, so that the number of people yesterday exceeded 14,000, thank you very much tilde tilde. You and I are of different levels. Quicksand. Qinyang held the scepter and pointed forward. Immediately, the desertified earth, a large amount of sand and soil rolled back towards Crocodile, the center of the desertification. Crocodile together. I saw the whole earth, forming a quicksand vortex. The center of the vortex is Crocodile. He sank half into the quicksand, but could no longer descend half a point. What? Crocodile was startled. These sands out of my control. More than being out of control, a huge part of them formed a cage underground, preventing him from escaping. Impossible. I'm Logia, I can manipulate natural elements. What kind of power do you have? Crocodile stared at the desert emperor in the distance, his tone dry. He he he. Qin Yang chuckled twice and said, as I said, the levels are different. These sands are the embodiment of my magic power, and of course you can't control them. Crocodile could have guessed that a large part of these sands did not belong to the natural elements, but belonged to the owner, without needing him to say 700. The owner is the desert emperor in front of him. Unlike Logia's manipulation of natural elements, the quicksand of the desert emperor is his own power, and of course he will not be dominated by the sand fruit. Bastard, this is the first time I've heard of this ability. Crocodile's face was ashen. He found himself trapped. The vortex of quicksand dragged half of his body. He could not get down or get up, and was in a blocked state. Sand soldiers. At this moment, Qin Yang snorted softly, and suddenly, above the quicksand whirlpool, figures of sand soldiers appeared one after another. These soldiers held their halberds high and stabbed at Crocodile in unison. HMPH, it's useless, I'm Logia. Crocodile snorted coldly while resisting the quicksand swallowing. Really, just Logia, don't be so arrogant. Qin Yang's tone was flat, and he manipulated the scepter and stabbed it sharply. With his movements, more than a dozen sand soldiers in the quicksand whirlpool did the same. They held their halberds high and stabbed the crocodile in unison. Puff! Instant, Crocodile was stabbed into a hornet's nest, and the entire upper body collapsed, turning into a piece of quicksand. But in the next moment, the sand began to recover and condensed into the body again. Ha ha ha, soldiers made of sand attack quicksand bodies, are you kidding me? Crocodile opened his mouth to sneer, but just after he finished speaking, his expression changed suddenly. Stupid people, Qin Yang shook his head, since you are a fluid, where do you think the halberd that pierced your body just now? Degree. Hearing the words, Crocodile was suddenly startled. He glanced at it and was shocked to find that the heads of the halberds in the hands of the dozen or so soldiers were missing a corner. No need to remind him at all, he reacted immediately. These missing parts must have turned into sand and mixed in his body. Damn it, my head hurts. Crocodile's face was contorted, and he covered his head, only to feel a splitting headache, as if he would explode at any moment. However, the next moment, boom. His upper body exploded and shattered into quicksand again, but soon, the sand began to condense into a human shape, and then burst again. So back and forth, constantly condensing, and constantly bursting. Sand Emperor. Condensing his body again, Crocodile roared frantically, his eyes widened, and he looked at each other with bloodshot eyes. There are unnatural elements in his body, that is the magic power of Sand Emperor. It is like a bomb, every time he condenses his body, this power will be triggered, causing his body to explode. You can play alone for a while. Leaving a sentence, Qin Yang was too lazy to pay attention to him. Deal with Logia, sometimes you don't necessarily need armament hockey, and you don't even need the ability to overcome each other. Just a little magic mixed with the dealing fluid is enough to collapse the dealing body. Like Crocodile rely too much on their own abilities, which is why they have such unbearable performance. Ability, fighting technique, hockey, these three go hand in hand to become a real powerhouse. You bloody bastard. Crocodile growled angrily. He felt contempt, and the Sand Emperor didn't bother to fight with him, and ignored him directly, leaving him trapped in the quicksand whirlpool. However, just after he finished shouting, with a bang, his body exploded again. This time, fortunately, he no longer condensed, but carefully discharged the foreign matter in the fluid. In this regard, Qin Yang did not pay attention to it. How could his magic power be so easily ruled out? At this moment, he walked towards Gecko Moria, and as he walked, behind him, soldiers of yellow sand continued to gather. Above the sky, the sun disk is still shooting golden light bullets intermittently. This is pure magic. After the light bullet is shot, as long as the target is within the shrouded range, it cannot escape the lock. Gecko Moria kept dodging, but after all, he couldn't escape a series of attacks. Boom boom boom. He was hit by 6 or 7 light bullets in one breath, and the explosion devoured him. Wow! Another mouthful of blood spit out, and Yugon Moria's face turned paler. But in the pale, he also showed a fierce light. You forced me. In a rage, he opened his mouth and took a sharp breath. In an instant, black shadows lifted off from the 7 waters below, and were sucked into the abdomen by Moria in one breath. Immediately afterwards, Moria's body began to swell, first of all, her chest, suddenly bulging, several times larger, then her arms, sprinting with explosive force all over her body. 400, 500. Moria's body swelled from 7 meters at the beginning to 50 meters at the moment, comparable to a giant, and her voice was even more ghostly, extremely harsh. Ha 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 ha, Sand Emperor, I'm going to crush you to death. Shadow gathering place. Moria laughed wildly, raised her right fist high, and slammed it down at Qin Yang. That huge body slammed a punch, which was comparable to the fall of a celestial body, and it was majestic. 500 shadows, which is equivalent to increasing the strength of 500 people. This blow, in terms of lethality, is comparable to Whitebeard's punch. Boom! The entire island in the sky shook violently, and the ground cracked, as if the island was also shattered with a single punch. This vibration spreads all over the floating sky island. No matter who or where they are, they can feel this strong shock. Not far away, on the ground, quicksand emerged, and then Qin Yang's figure slowly emerged. He looked at each other coldly, as if the terrifying scene in front of him could not shake him at all. I really know how to hide. I see how many times you can do it. Moria turned her eyes, locked it again, and slapped her again. Half the ability, even you can't control it. Do you want to use it against the enemy? Qin Yang smiled, raised his scepter high, and suddenly, the magic power condensed, and a rich golden light appeared on it. Solar disc. In an instant, the huge disc above the sky shone with golden light, echoing each other from a distance. Slanted towards the gigantic Moria. Dong 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 dong. Chapter 0280-Big Riot. Dong 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 dong. Rain like light bullets poured out from the solar disk and fell on Gecko Moria. The gigantic Moria had no way to dodge at all. Such a huge body greatly strengthened her strength and gave up speed and flexibility. At this moment, he was subjected to light bullets, and he could only resist with his body. He only heard a series of explosions, his huge head was engulfed by light bombs, and the smoke billowed. A scream, Gecko Moria's expression became more and more brutal. While clenching his teeth, his raised left palm patted Qin Yang again. Go to hell. Facing the blow that was enough to shatter the island, Qin Yang was very calm, holding the scepter and standing quietly, as if waiting for the opponent's attack to fall. When it was about to be shot, a loud laugh came. Ha ha ha, Juya will play with you. Boom. The golden red light flickered, and the next moment, a 9-tailed demon fox with a body length of 100 meters appeared impressively. The speed of the 9-tailed demon fox was so fast that it stopped in front of Qin Yang with just a few strides, and then stood on 2 feet, with its forelimbs like arms, and went to meet Moria's palm. Boom! The island shook again, and the ground beneath Juwei's feet cracked instantly, but Moria's palm was firmly blocked. What? You damn fox, you have such a strange power. Moria's face changed, and when he was distracted, another series of light bullets hit him, and his body was washed again. In the roar, Moria was covered in blood and wounds. Humph, if your name is Ju Yi, I will consider showing mercy. The 9-tailed demon fox let out a snort, and when he opened his mouth, a strong evil force gathered and turned into a small energy ball. Eat 9 masters, tail beast cannon. Whoosh! The small ball of energy slowly flew towards Moria, and after approaching, it suddenly soared hundreds of times. What? Gecko Moria only had time to cover his head with his hands, and the next moment, it was a big explosion. As if a mushroom cloud rose up, swallowing everything within a few hundred meters in an instant. Being at the center of the explosion, Gecko Moria was baptized by violent energy, and the impact of its spread made him bloody and bloody. Above the sky, Golden Lion's face was shocked, and he couldn't help muttering in his heart, "What a strong destructive power, this guy will be seriously injured even if he doesn't die." Nine-tailed demon fox, a Kadri, his combat power is comparable to Admiral level. Although he knew it in advance, he had not seen it with his own eyes and could not understand it. Until this moment, the Golden Lion could truly understand that the Dream Kadris were also a group of terrifying guys. 7. However, the power of these people is still within the scope of understanding, including that Sand Emperor Azir. The real terrifying ones are the deputy captain and the captain. Golden Lion sighed inwardly and was pessimistic about the fate of Gecko Moria. F_P. Not to mention the battle situation in the direction of the main entrance, on the other side, on the north side of the island. A group of 6 people covered their ears and looked panicked. "Captain, the fight is really fierce over there, it should be the Dreamer and the Intruder fighting." A short man said softly, "I think, let's forget it. This time the action is a bit reckless, and a complete plan should be made. If you sneak in like this, it will definitely be exposed. HMPH, this is a rare opportunity, and someone just happens to attract firepower for us." The captain's face was full of beards, and he wore a short-sleeved, open chest covered in hair. He looked in his 40s, with missing teeth and a string of beads around his neck. "As long as we get the drawings, we will send them." Captain looked solemn. "Go, be careful, don't expose. There are too many patrols, remember to restrain your breath." Saying that, he took the first step, stepping on the snow by the night, and approached the mansion. However, at this moment, in a dark corner of the mansion, a man who looked like a guard was quietly climbing up the roof. "Someone." The captain lowered his voice immediately. "Strange, that person dared to climb on the roof. Is it a guard? Or an intruder?" As soon as his voice fell, at this moment, a gloomy wind swept across. Legacy. Whoosh. A figure as fast as lightning rushed out from under the snow. The 6 pirates didn't have time to react, and then their chests spurted blood and fell straight. In front of them, a large dog on a chain was chewing a few pieces of minced meat in its mouth. "Bah, the meat of these men is not tasty at all, astringent." The big dog snorted, spat out the flesh and blood in its mouth, and then jumped onto the roof. "Shish, be quiet, let you kill a few people, who told you to kill them?" Big Mark scolded. "This group of people can take advantage of it to attract firepower, but it was killed by you, idiot. If you have the ability to untie the chain, I will kill you first." The big dog looked at each other angrily, and the dog's eyes were full of killing intent. "HMPH, I'll settle the account with you later, it's important to get the blueprint first." Big Mark snorted coldly, then looked beyond the roof. Looking down from the sky, you can see the state of the mansion. This was originally the site of Golden Lion. The architectural style is more ancient. In addition to the central mansion, there are more than a dozen other houses. These houses are connected in all directions. It is impossible to sneak in from the house. The roof is the most important. Good choice. The blueprint must be in the central mansion, we have to find a way to get closer. Big Mark pulled the chain in his hand and acted lightly. Just as he took a step, his body suddenly froze. "Who?" Big Mark scolded, and suddenly looked sideways to another place. That is the roof of another house, and the terrain is much higher than this side. Therefore, Big Mark can only look up, but in the dark night, he can't see clearly, and he can barely distinguish it. It is a crow, parked on the eaves, with a pair of eyes staring firmly at this side. The strange thing is that the crow's eyes are blood-colored, and there are 3 hook jade in it, which are slowly turning. What? Big Mark's heart fluttered, and those eyes seemed to have a special magic power. He. Just then, a laughter sounded. Big Mark was stiff and looked stern. "Who is it? Don't hide. I know you were nearby, What is hiding? You are very sensitive to crisis. Then the voice sounded again, and then, Big Mark saw crows flying all over the sky and descending on the roof. The crows collided with each other and condensed into a single figure little by little. The figure's blood-colored eyes contained 3 black hook jades. It seems that Shichibukai, Marine's new recruit, is not a roadside thing either. Hearing this, Big Mark's heart became more and more shaken. This strange way of appearing on the stage made it difficult for him to keep calm. Who are you? He took a deep breath and tightened the chain in his hand. Intruder. Or. In this regard, the man just spoke lightly. Dream, Uchiha Itachi. Peace of mind, I'm not a big man, I'm just a little ninja. In the big riot tonight, I'll be responsible for capturing the 2 of you alive.